What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Superior Podcast, and today we have probably the most special guest. We are chatting to the boss man about the story of Superior. So Mick, welcome to your shed.
Thank you.
So let's take it right back, 2002, where this all began.
Yeah, right, well, going right back, like I'm a Boilermaker.
Yep.
So back in the day, we'll go right back. So back in the day before Superior even started, I was into full drives a bit. Normal young fella, motorbikes, all the normal crap you do, jet skis and everything, yeah. And I bought an LM106, no, LM46 it was.
Yep.
It was the old, I think it was yellow Hilux. Everyone refers to it as the green Hilux.
Round guards, like real old.
Yeah, it was pretty much the first of the Hiluxes.
Yep.
Anyway, what I found at the time back then, there wasn't much full drive products you could buy.
Yeah.
You got to think this is back in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
Or late 99 sort of thing when I bought it originally. GQs and all that stuff, it was sort of at that period, patrols and that was sort of coming on the scene and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So I really couldn't go out there. I had no money, so I couldn't go out there and buy stuff for my car.
Yeah.
So I just started tinkering things, started to play with bits and pieces on the car, like making shackles and all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
Basically what happened was I was trying to get my suspension to work, being leaf spring, front and rear. LM46 just doesn't work off-road.
No.
You just pick the wheels up everywhere.
Yeah.
So at that point I thought, how can I make this suspension work? And the normal thing everyone does back then, you're playing with springs, you're doing everything you can for yourself.
Try and lengthen stuff.
The industry back then was a lot different. This day and age, now everyone just gets on the internet, buys a product they need, wham, bam, in your car, you're off and going, and you're as good as everyone else.
Yeah,
Back then it was completely different. Those parts weren't available.
Exactly,
So I was playing with the rear suspension on the thing, and I seen in America they had a revolver, what they called the revolver shackle.
Yep.
And I looked at that. I first made one up. I thought, I can make that, because I didn't want to buy one from America. It would have cost me heaps back then.
Yeah.
And then basically I put it on the car, didn't work. And I thought, why is it not working? And I just thought about it, looked at it, tried to decipher it all, and then realised it needs another third pivot point on it. Yeah, and no one had done that.
No.
Because a revolver shackle at that point was a simple open-close shackle.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas the drop shackle Superior did was a three-way shackle, so it had that third swivel point in it that actually allowed, when it was articulating, on a leaf spring, your suspension kind of wants to twist and kick sideways.
Exactly.
And it needed that to allow the spring to actually come down
and flex
and
out.
Get away.
Yep.
So basically what it was, I was still boiler making then for a company at Narangba.
Yep.
I was doing a lot of aluminium fabrication. And at that point, I made a couple of sets. I think I was doing them through my lunchtime.
Yeah.
He was pretty good, the boss there. He'd let you do your foreigners at lunch and that.
Yep.
Put on the car, got it working okay. And that was kind of it. We used to go wheeling and everything was all good. And I had a friend who was working with me at that point. So his name was Steve. So basically Steve was in my ear a little bit, why don't you make these things and sell them?
Yep.
And at the point I was going, I couldn't be bothered. I had my own shit I was going on in life. I was just happy riding motorbikes and full driving.
Having fun,
With enough persistence from him, we sort of thought, okay, well, let's make a couple, sell a couple. So I started a business and it was called Superior Four-Wheel Drive Shackles.
Yep.
So this is probably about 2000, I think, year 2000.
Okay,
roughly.
Yeah, really.
And that was basically set up to do shackles. So I was working from home, which was at Warner at that time, which is in Queensland. And I had a little, I just purchased a house, paying a house off, and we built a 6x12 shed, so a small shed.
Yep.
I actually stepped back a little bit before that. When the business first started, Superior Full Drive Shackles, the very first customer I ever had come to me, I remember was like a 4Runner, I'm pretty sure it was, and he wanted suspension done. And at that point, I'd opened an account with EFS.
Yeah, okay, right,
So didn't know much about suspension. I was sort of trying to get into it. Like everyone starts a business, you've got to try and start learning. And I remember having this guy show up, first customer ever, and I lift my garage door up on my house, double garage door, and here I am in there with a little bottle jack, a little old thing, real worn, and a couple of bricks, and here I was jacking this car up, using bricks. Didn't have money to buy the car jack stands or anything like that. It was literally any tools I could rummage from borrowing off my old man or something like that. and got that car going. I really didn't know. I really struggled a lot with it, but got it going. And at the end of the day, it went out the door. It was all fine, but it was definitely a struggle, and I definitely didn't look professional in any means. So that's right at the very start. And then from that point then, I started making a few more bits and pieces. So shackles were definitely the first one. I think then we might have progressed on to, I was still just me and Steve at that point. So from that point then, I think we started doing extended shackles.
Okay, right.
And it would have been, I'm guessing here, but it would have been probably Hilux first, because I would have had access to that vehicle.
Exactly.
A little bit later on, if we sort of talk maybe a year later or something, I got to that point that Steve, I still wasn't taking a wage. Actually, this was 2 years on. I still wasn't taking a wage from the business. I was being supported off my wife, who just had a normal job. And it was a real struggle. And Steve was at the point, he had a young family, and he said to me, Mick, we've got to start taking some money from the business. The problem was we couldn't. There wasn't. We were still selling. Say we'd make a shackle, a pair of extended shackles, for whatever we sold them for back then. Might have been $165, I'm pretty sure. Back in 2000s, and then your money you made from that, which was very little money because there was no production back then. It was literally all your own labour and time.
Exactly.
But you won't make much profit. And then every little bit of that money had to go back in. And I remember we were buying lengths of steel from the steel merchant. We were buying, say, a piece at 300 mil long, or 500 or a metre, because we didn't have the money to buy a length or a sheet. It was like, what do we need to do to get this one part made to sell it to make another $10?
Exactly.
It was a big struggle. So anyway, Steve had come to me and said, hey, Mick, need money. I said, we just can't do it. So Steve had to make the choice then to either leave that Superior Full Drive Shackles, because that was basically a joint started business between the two of us. Although there's no money from either of us put into it. He ended up going, no, well, I can't. I've got to go get a job. Got to look after myself. And I said, okay, well, you do that, because I was in that slightly different circumstance where my wife was still paying for me to feed myself and do that sort of stuff. Once Steve had left, then I didn't have so much to worry about, I guess, because it was only myself. So I just kept plodding along.
Put your time into it.
What I was sort of making, shackles and bits and pieces. Like stepping back just a little bit from that, when I initially started Superior Full Drive Shackles, I was at the point, like a lot of people think they need a lot of money to start business, and yes, that is correct, and yes, money can make you make money quicker. There's no doubt about it. Anyone who says different is lying. But for those people out there who don't have much money, I started that business by borrowing a grinder. And I borrowed a welder. And and I literally bought like $10 worth of steel here and $10 worth of steel there, and literally just started making one at a time.
That's awesome. That's the part I love about Superior is you started it from that, and you're still here every day.
It was I feel it was the very lowest you could start a business. Like when you're borrowing a tool to get started, you're at the bottom. You've got no money behind you. So once Steve sort of moved on and he went his direction with his I don't know what business he got into. I never really kept that much contact with him. Although we're still friends and that. Then I got to the point where we're making enough, and it was a really, really hard decision that I needed to put a staff member on. And I remember it was the hardest decision of my life probably at that time, because it was hard to take I didn't want the responsibility of employing someone and then in 3 weeks' time or something like that saying, hey, I've got no work for you. So it was a big stress for me to go and think about putting a person on. Anyway, I decided I've got to do it. If I'm going to grow the business to make some money, to at least start doing something. At that point, I still weren't taking a wage for myself. I thought if I'm going to put a person on, I'm kind of at that point now, some money can start getting diverted from just turning over product to pay a wage for someone to be helping me. I'm pretty sure at that point, that was Brian Emerson, who was my first person I employed. So Brian Emerson was a really good mate. He had a Land Cruiser 75 series. So that was cool because that opened the door then, because we had another vehicle.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's a bit different when you're small like that. You can't just go and get vehicles and say, "Hey, Toyota, can I get your car to go have a look at?"
Yeah,
They don't want to know about you because you're a backyard person with no name.
It's still hard for us to these days.
Well, yeah, like we're a big company now, and you still struggle finding cars, even though it's a lot easier. But yeah, back then it was real hard. Anyway, Brian come along, 75 series, that was cool. So we had another car for R&D. We did shackles on it. We did the suspension, the longer springs.
Yep.
Back then, it was Rancho shocks was the in thing.
Yeah, they were the in thing.
Yeah, there was two shocks really that you touched. One was Tough Dog, because they had their big 45 mil and they were pretty long, and they were a nice, comfortable shock. And then you had the Ranchos, which are a bit softer again because they were just a gas emulsion basic shock.
Exactly.
And Americans seem to like soft ride, so generally a lot of their valving's pretty soft.
Yep.
And we used to set a lot of that suspension up in those Cruisers and Hiluxes with like 36-inch shocks, like big travel.
Big travel shock.
Like you don't do that anymore with a lot of customers. Cars have just changed so much over the years, and people have changed.
Yeah.
Back then, we'd go wheeling like we'd find a proper rock creek, not what people call a rock creek these days.
Yeah,
but you'd find a proper rock creek in the middle of nowhere that if you got your car stuck, it was staying forever.
Yeah, right.
But you'd want big flex in some of those creeks. It was big nasty stuff.
Proper old school rock crawling.
Yeah, which you don't see. There's people still doing it by all means, but it's nowhere near as common, especially for selling parts to those people. They tend to do it themselves. A lot of them.
Yep.
So basically once Brian come along, we started ticking over a few more products. At that point, I decided on the side of my house to build a little office.
Yep.
So what it was a carport on the side of the house when we'd built the house, I had a boat. It was like a 5-metre fiberglass old school boat. And so I got rid of that boat, sold it for a few $100s or whatever it was worth. It wasn't much. And then we enclosed in the actual side of the house to be like a little office.
Yep.
Very simple. I had a glass sliding door that I think I got from the demolition company place, and I just boxed it in, I think with some bricks and some timber and fibro.
Yep.
Made a little steel rack out of some old rusty steel that we managed to rummage. So that's where I remember at our peak in that room, we'd have like probably $1,000 worth of stuff. And I remember you'd have people rocking up, because this is like at the very start of the internet kind of period.
Yeah.
Like you'd have people rocking up there and there was nothing to show them. It was kind of, you want some shackles? Yep, we can make them. And everything was made pretty much to order.
Yeah. Okay.
But we could make it fairly quick. You could generally, we had zinc coaters, which was just down the road from us.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Which was East Coast.
Yep.
So literally what I would do, I'd make the part, or whether it was Brian, and then half the time I'd be working till 11 o'clock at night out there by myself. And then first thing in the morning, you'd race down to the zinc coaters, drop it in the afternoon, you could pick it up.
Yeah.
And then in the afternoon, you could literally go wrap it straight down the post office. When bam, it's out the door.
Yeah, exactly.
If I could only do it that quick now.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's a lot different now because we're talking, in a day, we're talking thousands of products.
Oh,
so
massive
it's just
amount of
completely
stuff we run out
changed.
of the zinkers now is full truckloads just in tie rods.
Yeah, so it's just changed the whole dynamics of the business. But I guess as say where Brian was with us for a bit, then I think it might have been Reese, and Reese is still with us to this moment.
Yep.
So he's had his long service and all that. So he's probably been with us, I don't know, it's probably coming up to 15, maybe 18 years or something.
Yeah, that's the funny thing about it when you look at Reese. Reese is probably the one person that still works there that's done literally every job.
Pretty much everything from the start. He's had his hands in pretty much all the different aspects of the business. And he's still very involved in not so much the R&D, but he's involved in all the parts that need to be put in the computer properly.
Exactly, yeah.
So
let the manufacturing guys know exactly what to make for each thing.
Yeah, like all your manufacturing steps, putting them in, whether it's got to be bandsaw cut, it's got to be welded, drilled, tapped, and then to the point of, is it got to be coated, where's it going, and all that. So, so he's still with us. So at that point, it was still going pretty good. We had, our competition back then we had Snake Racing, We had Thirds Productions.
Yep.
I think they were called. It might have just been Thirds. I think it was Thirds Productions.
Yeah.
Yep. So Thirds done mainly radius arms was their big thing. They had a pivot point at the back of their radius arm, which I didn't like it, and a lot of people didn't like it, and a lot of chassis got bent from it.
Yeah.
But that, I haven't seen one of those arms for a long time, so I'm assuming he's probably stopped.
Yeah, I saw some the other day, but a very old set that I saw the other day,
So there was Snake, there was Thirds, and Big Balls, which was Rick that run Big Balls. I can't remember Rick's last name. So those Snake Racing, I'm pretty sure, is still operating, but you don't see them anywhere in any kind of...
too much of it these days.
Yeah, you don't see anything on Facebook or anything like that,
No,
but I think the business is still operating. I think he had a lot of money behind him. He's got like tow truck businesses, and I think he made a lot of money from software and all that. It kind of popped up pretty quick, Snake Racing, and I just don't think he really put the effort into maintaining it, and that's why it died out. It really shouldn't have stopped. They had good products and all that sort of stuff. So once they kind of went off the scene a little bit, I guess that opened the door a bit for me to start getting a little bit of traction. At that time, we were doing a lot of rock crawling in the likes of, you go to Cruiser Park, in the creeks right out the back of the property and that sort of stuff.
Carnage Canyon was it
Carnage Canyon, all that, and we were racing all the rock crawling events and all that in Queensland. Or Southeast Queensland, we were racing that. So we were really testing the products. At that point, we'd started making steering rods.
Is this still in the Hilux, or is this moving to the Red Patrol?
No, well, it's probably about the time that I bought the Patrol. I would think. Because what happened with the Hilux, back then, the transport and police were pretty anal with cars, and my Hilux is pretty off tap. It was driving around 40-inch tyres, and back then, in the early 2000s, 40-inch tyres, there was really none around. I think it was MTZ. I think it was in the 40. I think that was the brand, or MTR maybe. Can't quite remember, but it was on that, and the lift on the thing was probably like 5-inch, had 2-inch or 3-inch body lift. Like some of the photos, they might pop one up on the screen during this podcast, but it was pretty damn big, and it was unreal for R&D. Like, you'd go to Cruiser Park, you had pig pan, and back then, being young, go and put in the mud. Love getting it covered in mud. But the R&D was great. The showing the business, promoting the business was great. Because you'd go to Pigpen and park the thing up on those big stumps that were there, and everyone would say, man, this thing flexes better than any Patrol I've seen. Because honestly, it flexed better than any Patrol.
It did. It's still probably one of the highest flexing cars out there.
I haven't seen a road car that would still outdo it. There would be one out there, don't get me wrong, but when you're running 36-inch shocks, very inverted, and you're using every bit of that travel both ways, it's a lot of travel. And that's on fronts, they were 32s in the front, so they were big shocks in the front too.
Definitely.
That worked well for us. We're just same thing, plodding along, giving people, or just showing people what we can make, what we can do, and then people seeing it get out there. We started, at some point there, we started getting into the comp scene as far as with other people, like the likes of, we got mixed in with the crowd of Kevy McCord and some of the other boys there, Spoonie, and like all the Winch Challenge guys at that point at Cruiser Park. So Kevy McCord was pretty mad. He was known as, if you're going to fuck it, he's the one. Like there's photos of him jumping in some of the courses over the big jump at Cruiser Park, landing like flat tyre and just not care, or pulling up at the end of the races with no rim. He's just driven it that hard, he's ripped the rim to pieces. And this is still, well, you see that stuff now, but back then in that day, he was the one doing all the crazy stuff. So he was the one that we chose to be our ambassador. Which I don't know if was a good thing or a bad thing. Like some of the things, like that, this was, when we were dealing with Kevy, was when the Armada shocks started coming in. So I don't know what the year was. I'd have to have a timeline in front of me to look at it, but he was our test dummy for that. So they were a bit of a headache, the old Armada shocks, and there was SRC shocks before that. Just trying to get them right. We had a lot of problems with those. But Kevy was the person that you'd go and put a steering rod on it, or a control arm and say, go race, Kev.
Yeah.
And you tell me if it survives. And if it survived, it'd pass the Kevin McCord test.
Yeah.
So it was pretty damn good. So it was an unconventional way of testing shit, I guess.
Yep.
When you look at now, way things are tested is computer, whether it's FEA or whether it's destructive test or whatever. But back then, I didn't have that money for that sort of stuff. It was kind of really, I'd never even heard of that sort of stuff. It was like, if I'm going to test this, if we can't break it in the real world, well, it's pretty strong.
It's pretty strong, yeah. And I guess it comes into differences in what's required with legalities these days is the government don't care about Kevin McCord going and trashing something into a tree.
No.
They want to see a Pukin program that says, hey, yeah, this is strong. Like, that's what they want.
Yeah, well, they want to see some data now.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, I guess once we were sort of through that period, would have been when we started getting more traction in the business. I think we still would have been at Warner,
Yeah, okay.
where the 6x12 shed is.
Yep.
So by then, I think it's either Shane or Luke would have started joining us.
Okay.
So they're both with us still.
Yeah, they've both been there a very, very long time.
Yep. So Luke, I can't remember what Luke was doing, whether he was sales or what, right back at the very start. Shane, who's the workshop manager now with us, but he's been with us the whole time. Yeah, he'd started, so he was in with me out in the workshop doing all the machine work and all that.
Yeah.
Because when I'd started that business and right through for many years, I was out there on the tools. I was on the phone, I was on the tools, I was doing the whole lot, sort of thing. It was manageable as one person kind of doing that stuff. Once it started getting that bit more traction, then I think we still started, well, it might have been that point when we moved, when we started putting more staff on after that. I can't quite remember. Say somewhere around, it must have been 2008 maybe, something like that. My old man had a 500 acre property at Burpengary.
Yep.
So he built a 1,200 square metre shed.
Yep.
And I said to him, okay, can I start renting some of this property from you, some of this building? So what it was a big farm shed, all dirt, floor. It was the most basic farm shed you'd see, but it had a roof.
Yep.
So at that point I said, okay, can I just rent the first little section, which I think at that point was 200 square metre piece that had concrete.
Yep.
So we got the concrete down for that. And then that's probably about the point we started employing more people.
Yeah.
I've sort of got a bit of a mind blank on who the next staff would have probably been from that point on. That might have been where just, maybe some packers or something like that might have started in there. But basically what we'd done, once we got the concrete down, we moved some machines. We were using like the Heron Forbes lathes, like just whatever we could get cheap.
Yep.
The panhard rods we were bending with, we had a little, a pipe bender set up, a bit of a dodgy setup, but it did the job.
Yeah.
It was doing the panhard rod. So it was like literally a panhard rod. You'd have to preheat it, and then you'd have to bend it, and then let it cool down properly.
Yep.
And that literally, each panhard took you probably 10 or 15 minutes to bend.
Yeah, right.
Like now when we bend a panhard, it's probably 3 seconds.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the big bender does it like it's nothing.
Yeah, it's just chalk and cheese. But yeah, so at some point there, when we would have moved we built a small shed off to the side of the old man's shed, which was in size, it might have been 6 by 10 metres out of cold room panel.
Okay, right.
So that then become the office.
Yeah, that's where I started.
Oh, was that when you? Yeah.
No, that's where I started in that.
In that office. Yeah. So basically, from there, we got some 25mm RHS, and we knocked up some benches, and we got some melamine from wherever it come from, Bunnings or somewhere like that. It would have come from, or would have rummaged it up. Tech screwed all that together, so it was very hit and miss kind of benches, but
it's still there.
It still did the job for what we needed to do. There was certainly nothing that looked professional about Superior Engineering. Well, actually, at that point, which I forgot to mention, about 2006, the company got changed from Superior Full Drive Shackles. I changed it to Superior Engineering. So the reason I did that was because I was worried, I couldn't see the future obviously, and I was worried, is there really going to be enough shackles for me to make to retain this name for another 20, 30, 40 years? And I thought, no way. So I thought, what can I change the name to that will cover me, whatever I want to do in fabrication, because I love fabricating back then, that's what my passion was. And I thought Superior Engineering, that was available. I thought, wow, how is that not taken? So I grabbed that name. That's what Superior Engineering is, why it's that name at the moment. It was initially Superior Engineering Hardcore 4x4 products. That changed probably around the same sort of time we were talking about, the 2008, maybe somewhere around that. Or 2000, might have even been later, 2010 or something, we went Superior Premium full drive accessories. Because what we noticed was the hardcore 4x4 products was becoming less and less. We'd seen them, like I'm very good at watching the market and seeing what's going on. And I could see that it was completely changing with the IFS cars coming out and all that sort of stuff.
Touring is massive now.
Back then, in the early 2000s, touring wasn't a thing. Yes, you had ARB selling some stuff and TJM, and the opposite lock was a bit popular. But the average person touring wasn't on the top of everyone's agenda. Now it's probably more on the agenda more than any other type of full driving.
100%.
So it's definitely changed. We haven't chased the touring market too much because we're busy in what we do anyway. So as we got that first concrete slab down and the shed down, we then started getting a bit more momentum because a lot of things that's held this business up for me is just money. Because I started with nothing, with no capital or anything, I literally every cent where the business is now has been built up from the first shackle ever made.
Exactly.
So it just takes time when you do it that way. It's, in my eyes, it's a safe way to do it.
I think it's
just smacking a heap of money out in the middle of nowhere and hoping.
And it also, I think the way you've built it as well is what keeps you driven to keep building it. Whether if you're a successful tow truck driver and you've got a tow company and you start selling a few four drive products and it's not doing as good as that, you can deviate and it not matter. For you, it is always
it's all there. It's one thing we're concentrating on. The only thing that's different, we pivot a bit in what's happening in the trends and all that. I keep a bit of an eye on it. We don't follow every trend because I just couldn't be bothered. But we keep a bit of an eye on the overall what's happening in the industry.
Exactly.
And if something needs tweaking a little bit, we'll change direction a little bit on what we're doing. So as we started getting bigger and bigger, then we would just go. I was going to my old man saying, okay, I need some more space. Give me another concrete slab. Pay some rent for that. Set up the lights and all that. And then at one point we ended up buying an auto bandsaw. That was a big thing for the company because we were doing the old school way with hot saw. So everything we were cutting was cut with a hot saw.
Wow. Okay.
That sucks.
No, it definitely sucks. Especially like that heavy stuff we use.
I remember it was a big thing for us. It was hot saw first, DeWalt hot saw, and then we went, when I finally saved some money up, I thought, wow, I can buy a cold saw, and I got a 240 volt Harry Forbes cold saw. So that was a big thing for us because cold saw is so much nicer to operate.
Much nicer.
As time went on and we kept saving more and more money, then I've got a Kosen bandsaw, which is pretty big bit of gear. That changed a lot for us because now we could start doing stuff a little bit more production. We could start cutting like 20 bars at a time. And you didn't have to stand there. You could just press a button and go walk away.
Exactly. Go back to doing stuff.
We had around this sort of timeline when we moved to my old man's is when we did our first patent. So we did the Superflex patent. That was a huge thing for the company. That come about, I had some good friends, Greg and Dave. So Greg was also a very early employee with us. He's still with us. He's the senior engineer with us. So me and Greg, Greg used to navvy for Dave Burton Bradley, which was Team DGR in the Hilux. So they were extremely good in tough truck and all that. They were teaching me and Shane. Shane was my navvy most of the time.
Yep.
When I had that patrol. So at some period there, I would have bought that patrol.
Yeah. Yep.
So they were teaching us how to wheel and all that sort of stuff in the competition. So we were doing they had an event called Tough Track.
Been to a lot of tough tracks.
Yeah, which we did really good. Me and Shane, like we got almost every event we got first placed.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome, man.
yeah, and we had Greg and Dave teach us a lot about how to rock crawl, how to do it properly, not just go and smack it into a rock and expect everything to hold together.
Yeah.
So we're sitting down one night or one day, I think it was night time actually, me and Greg, and we're scratching our head thinking, how can we make a front of a Patrol Flex? Because there's nothing on the market. Exactly. There was the Wizard 5-link.
Yep.
Because at that point, Wizard Performance was up and running.
Yeah, Wizard, yep.
So he had a 5-link. Brian Emerson had a 5-link. Because I remember when he first come work for me, I was sticking my head on the car, wow, look at that, look at the 5-link, that's unreal. But it didn't get an overly great name back then. Yeah, in my opinion, the geometry wasn't very good on it.
Okay, yep.
Some people may argue, that's fine. So we were looking at another way that would actually control the front end a lot more.
Yep.
Not so boaty. So Greg come up with the idea of the Superflex. We basically got the very first one, we got a radius arm, cut the radius arm, which is just absolute shit material.
Missing
full of sulfur and crap. And we dodgy welded a bit of fucking boss on the thing and got that going. Mocked up some plates. I think we would have just cut them with an oxy because this was still the period of using oxyacetylene. We were only just starting getting laser cutting.
Yep.
And anyway, got it together, got it working, thought, wow, this is great. And then we thought, this is great. Like, no one's done anything like this. So we put a patent. The first patent started back then around 2008.
Yeah.
We've done a series of patents afterwards with different things to do with it.
Yep.
I think we'd be over 20 patents now.
Yeah, there's
within
a lot
the
of
business.
Patents. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realise the business. We're not just a company that goes and looks at what everyone's done and makes the same. There would be very few, if anyone, that can rival us with patents.
That's exactly right, and that's something I think that is missed majorly in the industry at the moment as well. Is people seem to just think Superior is just that business that they've just been around a long time, busting us, and have patented products. And like I personally think, like the Superflex arm, it revolutionised that solid axle front end of a Patrol and then moving into cruisers and that to be able to compete with a leaf sprung Hilux that you can make flex. Started in that early times. I definitely think the Superflex arm revolutionised Australian full driving. Definitely.
Well, there wouldn't be a day that I wouldn't drive on the road. Like we're in Brisbane, obviously, but there wouldn't be a day that I wouldn't see a full drive past me that hasn't got either Superflex or Hyperflex.
Yeah, exactly right.
Or our radius arms on it.
100%.
Or then even if you want to go further, like there wouldn't be a day that you wouldn't see someone without tie rods or panhards or drag. So many full drives have got our gear on it.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
I don't think a lot of people realise.
No, I love it.
Millions of parts we've done.
Oh, that's exactly right. Like, sometimes it's funny when we talk about when I started, we still had the dirt floor. And we had beside the edge of the dirt floor was a stack of radius arms.
Yeah, I remember that.
All stacked up. And then now it's just like, all right, we've got a batch of radius arms on it. We're making 1,000 radius arms. Like it's a massive
it's a bit
change.
Different. We used to have that rack, and there was some pipe welded vertically, and you put your arm in it. There's a 2-inch arm, there's a 3-inch,
there's a piece of timber little piece of timber in between each arm as you stacked them up.
The poor packers used to have to go there and pick them up, and it was bit of a nightmare, but you did what you did back then. It's always been, from the day dot, it's been a struggle with us for space, and that just comes from lack of money. That's all it is. Because if you don't have money, you can't buy more space unless you're lucky enough and you've got the ability to get a big warehouse or something like that. Then the sky is sort of a bit more endless. You can
definitely,
you can make things work a lot better if you've got space to do it. We did that patent. There's been a lot of, with the patents, we've done quite a few you've got your 5-link's got a design on that. There's handbrake thing, there's
U-bolt plates.
I haven't got the list in front of me, but I looked yesterday and there'll be over 20. So we bought, at some point there, we started using laser cutting. Actually, laser cutting started back at Warner, actually. And we were using a company called Bilaser. at
Okay. Yep.
in the city or wherever they were, G-Bung or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. You're doing small stuff back then. You could easily get stuff.
Yeah.
It was fairly new to the industry, laser cutting. When I was a Boilermaker, everything was oxy-cut.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you did a little bit of plasma cutting, but
Yeah.
it was kind of a bit of a revolutionary thing. I remember I would just sketch up something on a piece of paper. I didn't have SolidWorks or anything like that, so I'd just send that to them by fax.
Yeah.
I think it was fax back then. Might have been into email, but either way. And then they'd cut the part for me, get the part back, try it, which worked pretty good. Over at Old Burp, when we started getting over there, we were getting to the problem of getting cars in and not being able to get those parts from the laser cutter quick enough.
Yeah.
Because obviously as time's gone by, the likes of those laser cutters have got more customers, everything gets slower.
Yeah. Laser cutting's a massive industry now.
We weren't really, our numbers weren't high enough to be able to push them a bit hard to say, hey, look after us better.
Yeah. Yep.
We were just another number.
Yep.
So we bought a plasma cutter for R&D.
Yep.
Because it'd be about the time probably Josh started with us.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yep.
Doing R&D. Because a lot of, in the early days, the R&D was done from myself and say Shane or Reese.
Yep.
We'd sit down and it was old school cardboard scissors.
Yeah.
You just cut the part you need, make it look like it's going to fit.
Yep.
Make it, weld it, bend it. Does it fit? No. Cut it, chop it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Round 18, have we got it right?
Yeah. There's no design on a computer and go like, oh, it looks pretty good.
Yeah. It was very, very basic way. So around that sort of time would have been when Josh come and started. So I think he'd just come out of his graduation, from what I recall. So he was pretty good. Josh could look at something and work out. He was the sort of person who could look at it and think outside the square.
Yeah.
Which at that point, I'm not sure if Greg was with us yet, that I spoke about earlier.
Yep.
Because Greg eventually works for us, obviously. But yeah, Josh was the one who did a lot of the coil conversions and all that sort of stuff. Because at some point there at Old Burp and Gary, that's when we started getting into coil conversions and bits and pieces. We started looking at, well, hey, what's our other things we can do? Because I remember we had that big rack of steering rods.
Yeah.
Remember that? And we'd pretty much mastered or got down pat all the different steering rods you could make for your different four drives or your solid axles. And then there was tie rod adjusters and all that for all your small stuff. So we were starting to get all your basic stuff covered. We were starting to do your IFS stuff, like your upper control arms and all that. They were still very tedious. I think we'd probably ended up maybe 3 or 4 boilies. Over there, the Boilermakers sort of come, it's like all our staff through the whole business. It's, you get one person now and then it might be, as you save a bit more money and you get your product a bit better and you get a bit more confidence in the market, you can then put another person on, and it just kept gradually building up. We ended up you'd build up one rack for, say, packing, and then eventually you'd get another packer and you'd have to build another bench. It was the same thing. We'd made everything that we had. We didn't go and buy, say, a packing bench from one of the companies or whatever. It was literally, let's get some RHS, what do we got, scrap, put it together. Put a bench, screw an old timber bench top on that we bought from the auction.
Exactly.
And rummage up whatever computer parts you've got and you're going again. The wiring there was a bit scary at Old Burp.
There was stuff going everywhere.
It wasn't done from a proper Sparky. It was kind of just added as we needed it.
Hey, Luke, come down here. You're the IT guy right now.
So it was add another port here, add another lead here, or add another 400 power adapters. It was a bit sketchy, but same thing. Like, you work with what you can. Like, as a business, you've got to do that. You can't always just throw your hands in there and go, this sucks because I can't buy what I want today.
Exactly.
So you just got to work around it.
You've just got to put the effort in and
as it got bigger there, obviously more and more concrete slabs kept getting purchased. I think we ended up in total. Well, we actually, at the end of it, we ended up using the whole 1,200 square metres from the old man. We kind of kicked him out. He had nowhere to put his stuff.
Nowhere to put his excavators, just sitting in the paddock rusting.
So the excavator started rusting out in the salt air, and his Bobcat rusted.
Because when I started, your old man was working in assembly. like assembly.
Yeah, well, that's right. Yeah, I did have him doing. Yeah, he'd come down and annoy us all.
Yeah,
And
if you're going to come and annoy, go work.
yeah, he was doing all sorts of things for us. He was a good laugh. Like, he's still with us. He's still alive, obviously, but he was quite funny.
Yeah,
he still shows up at the new location as a pest.
Yeah, there's a barbecue. Chalk turns up. It's like,
Yeah,
where did you figure out that we're having a barbecue today?
I think he smells it through the air across the other side of the freeway. It starts coming. It's free. We then, what did we do? We built that shed down the back. In the back of the big shed, we built an office.
Yep.
Because at that point, it's probably about the time I met my wife, Amy. So she at some point she left her business and come and worked for us, because it was a bit of a mess, the whole accounts and all that. At that point, it was getting pretty big for me. I'd come home and I'd lay all my invoices out on the table, and you're trying to work it all out. You'd have money you got to pay people and all that. And for one person who's then trying to do fabrication, trying to chase things up, trying to think of new ideas, it was getting a bit beyond the joke. So Amy took that on board, which she's done an awesome job. So she moved down the back office, along with, what was there? There was Josh down there. By then, Greg had joined us as a team member.
Luke was down there running the
Luke
website.
down there. Yeah. I think I went down there for a while.
Yeah, you were down there for the while. You were in the kitchen when I started. Your office was in the kitchen down there.
So we kind of just kept moving around, had to keep just reshuffling as we grew.
Yeah.
Because up the front in that little office we had Johnny Butler. He was doing sales. There's a few other salespeople in there. So they were basically just on walk-ins and phone.
Yep.
We were really lucky with the business. I feel we were lucky because of the internet.
Yeah.
When we started the business, it was right at kind of the start of when the internet was so, I guess, young for full drive products and all that. There was just hardly anything on the internet.
It was all forums, everything like that.
Well, you had Outer Limits forum.
Yeah,
so
exactly. Yeah.
I was terrible on that. I'd get on the piss at night, and then because I got my own opinion, and I know a lot of the times I know what is right and what's wrong, especially if it's my product and I've made it.
Yeah, exactly right.
I know what the limits are, and then you get the idiots on there who were saying this is wrong, that's wrong, and all that. And I wasn't very nice in some of my responses. I pretty much stuck it to them. This day and age, it's a bit harder to do that.
Sometimes I get in arguments with people, and it's just it's a never-ending battle. I've got to take the step back and be like, all right,
Last times I've been in the office and I've told you, just don't even bother replying to them anymore, because it's not going. You go around circles. They just want to argue.
Yeah, it's exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah, so sometimes you're just never going to win it. And at the end of the day, you might know that that's correct. They're not going to care.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Because as far as they're concerned, they want to just fucking argue. I guess somewhere around that point, amongst all your different products we were doing. Oh, we got a plasma. Did I talk about the plasma cutter?
Yeah, plasma cutter when Joshy started.
Yeah, so that was the reason we got the plasma cutter, was basically just to do stuff quicker, R&D. So that worked real good for us. We sort of put just extra gear, more compressors, and we got, at one point, bought a 40-foot container, because we'd run out of space at that point. We'd put all the racking up. It was pretty, as you would remember, it was pretty full on in there. There was not much space.
You couldn't breathe.
There was no such thing as proper, like 2 metre walkways and that. Everything was as very minimum as you could get it.
And it was even so hard, like now we have at the warehouse, which is the best thing ever, is stock control. We can just jump on the computer, search up a part. Yes, we have them. It's still getting manufactured where it is. We can see where if it's at zinc or whatever's happening. Back then, we had a customer on the phone. I'll go have a quick look for you, mate. Put them on hold, and you go for a walk and see if those arms are sitting there.
Yeah, you had to get up out of the seat.
Yep.
Put them on hold. Go for a walk. Yep. Look in the rack.
Yeah.
Hope that when you've told that customer, it's here. Yeah. Someone else hasn't just sold it on you.
Yeah.
It was. We were starting to get stock levels up at that point, but what people have got to understand too is there are so many four-wheel drives, and out of all them four-wheel drives, there are so many products under each four-wheel drive, and there's only so much space. You can do it.
You can
store all the different things. So it's very hard to have every product that you make on the shelf all the time.
And that's it. It still blows me away these days, like with patrols, like how many parts we've sold for patrols over the years.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling. It just keeps going.
And then people ring up and say, I've got a bog stock patrol. It's like, how is there a stock patrol left out there?
Yeah.
Like, how has not every single one of them been pulled apart?
Yeah, and that's just dealing with Australia. Like we do small export, but we don't. Like I remember having a meeting with the boys at Tough Dog.
Yeah.
Me and Greg went down there.
Yep.
And I remember him saying, our Australian market's nothing to us. It's all international. That's where we make it money.
Yeah. Yep.
And I know that ARB and Ironman and the likes of those are all the same too.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
We're the opposite. We've never really pushed towards international.
Yeah.
I don't have probably the money and the logistics behind me to do it
That
successfully.
Yeah.
So I just stick with what I can do, and that's locally.
Yeah, and that's the hard thing. Like we do have some, like especially like the Middle East, because obviously it's patrols and cruisers over there. We've got some great guys over there that are starting to import massive amounts of stuff. But then you run into like Saudi. Importing to Saudi is impossible.
Well, I think weren't you doing? You were
doing
I started
international,
in international,
and it just you do. We did a sea freight order to Saudi once, and it ended up, I think it was 9 months after it left us, it got to there.
To get there.
You just can't do it.
I do remember a lot of problems you guys had with exporting stuff, and even just you'd have like say containers where the stuff's sitting there and then just sitting there for weeks on end waiting to get picked up. And it's like, we don't have the space for this. It's got to go.
Yeah, it's got to go. And that, international's definitely has always been a logistical nightmare for us. And that's why Australia's been so good to us as well.
Yeah, I think as the business keeps growing, we will do more and more export, but it's like everything in this business, you just got to do it at the right time.
Yeah, that's...
I can't jump into too much. I've got to, it's only, what people don't understand too is it's a family business.
Yeah.
It's myself and my wife, and that's it. And both of us had nothing to start with. So it's not a multinational corporation that can just pull money out of my ass and go, hey, let's now just focus on Saudi or whatever.
Yeah, and
that's just chipping away.
That's what a lot of people don't realise that is in the industry these days is so many businesses that maybe should be like, we're a full drive shop or we sell full drive products. They're owned by a massive corporation that owns 15 other businesses. So they have resources to just throw money into it.
What we've noticed now, most of the full drive companies are getting bought up.
Yeah.
And people don't realise it. The likes of Cal Off Road and all that, like that Cool
Drive.
Cool Drive, own them. Like there's a lot of companies now that have been purchased from the big companies.
Yeah. Yep.
And they keep it hush hush. Obviously, there's no point going to tell the general public what's going on.
No, that's exactly right.
But that's where a lot of this money comes from. It's just big
and we've seen
big players in the industry.
We've seen it in the industry as well. Of some of those big players do get too big and they end up going sump up. Like look at Hoonigan and that the other year.
Yeah, I think they
1.3 billion in debt. Yeah. And which ARB have since capitalised on, and ARB have expanded into America further, but it's just, we're not that. So you and Amy are still there every day.
One thing I've noticed in life is you can't tell someone's finances by how they look.
No.
By what they drive, by how they talk, whatever.
That's exactly right.
It's whether it's a human being or a company, they're all the same. I've seen so many companies in my life, on the face of it, looks like they're doing absolutely unreal. Next minute, they're gone.
Yeah,
you just can't tell.
No.
So you've just got to hope the people that you're dealing with are doing a good job. So,
and that's another thing that I love about how it's just you and Amy that run the whole business is you're there every day. Amy's there if we're having a barbecue. Amy comes in and yells at us all to come out and get food before it's all gone. And like it's just...
Well, even my kids come to the barbecues and that.
That's exactly right. Yeah. They all come in and Mason's, I've been here for almost 8 years and Mason finally says hey to me. Emily comes in and yells at us and has a joke around like it's great.
I think Mason just wants to find Jake.
That's exactly right. Yeah, that's Jake. He's not slaving in Dad's garden and get yelled at.
He loves him. I don't know. Well, let's talk about COVID, I suppose, because COVID smashed us. As everyone in the full drive industry got smashed.
Yeah, I've said it to a number of people before. How the government pushed holiday here this year, I think that actually really worked because the full drive industry exploded. It was, we were we were a bit scared for a couple of weeks, going like, oh, we're going to have a downturn. And then it's like everyone's starting to work from home. Then you're like, get back in the office.
Yeah.
We need to get this stuff done. It was
well,
crazy.
At that time, COVID, it was a bit of a shit time in my life because my mum had cancer. Well, mum had cancer for a fair few years. She was only supposed to live like 12 months or something like that, 6 months or something. Yep. She was probably like in year 4 or 5 of cancer by that point.
Right. Yep.
And what had happened, she'd gone overseas. I sort of pushed her a lot. I said, go overseas, go enjoy yourself, go and do something, go and see some friends. So she jumped on one of those P&O cruises, went to New Zealand, and unfortunately what happened, because she was already pretty exhausted from the chemo and that she always does, she actually come back to Australia after a week or whatever, and she was too exhausted to do chemo anymore.
Yeah.
So within 2 or 3 weeks, she'd gone. She was dead.
Yeah.
That was right at the point that COVID had hit us. I remember I was trying to run, everything's getting more and more hectic within the company.
Yep.
And I remember having to take mum to the hospital. I remember having to take mum down the Gold Coast to get treatment.
I remember you taking time
and it was
off,
like, I can't take time. I was torn because I couldn't take time away from work because I needed it. I had customers that were screaming for parts and I didn't want to piss people off. And then I had my mum that I was trying to deal with.
Yep.
So it was very hard for me in that timeline to try and balance both. But yeah, COVID was, it was a double-edged sword. It was absolutely unreal for progressing us to the next level.
Yeah.
But mentally it really hurt.
Yeah.
I think it was, I remember I was getting there at like, I was dealing with mum and then I was getting there at like 5 in the morning, 4:30 in the morning, and I was on a forklift bringing pallets out of the workshop, and you're spending 2 hours on a forklift just bringing pallets out, just so at 7 o'clock when people rocked up, they could go in the building.
Yeah.
And then it was the same thing. Work would finish at 4:30 in the afternoon, and then on the forklift again, and then just running pallets back in the building.
Into the building. Yep.
So they were huge, long days doing that, and you were just mentally exhausted because we didn't have stock control.
No.
You guys were absolutely run off your feet. The phones just didn't stop because everyone was at home and wanted to do something with their money.
Yeah, exactly.
And they were given, the damn government was just giving money out left, right and centre, which is great for the people who got the money, but it was crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy.
That money was just going back into superior engineering.
Because
literally. The phones didn't stop ringing.
No, we were answering, like I think at D-Bay, when we moved to D-Bay was when we got the current phone system that gave so much more data for us as sales staff to know where we're all at, how much we're doing. And it was on the wall and you'd see it and you'd click over 500 phone calls by lunchtime. You're like, man, give me this half an hour. Like, I need to go sit in the car park and decompress and have a Sango. It was nuts.
Yeah, it was, it really, it got a lot of money to us, put a lot of stress on us.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, that geared us up. Like if I had the money backing behind me and I could have had a bigger shed at that point, I would have made so much money. It would have been like winning the lotto. If you could produce the product to get out the door, because there were so many people who just couldn't get the product they wanted because we couldn't do it in the time we needed. So we could only do the best we could. I think we fared pretty good out of it because everyone you talked to was the same. There was, like in our industry, I should say, there was a lot of industries, coffee shops and all that went broke, unfortunately. It was just a matter of, were you lucky enough to be in an industry that was going to benefit from it?
That was classed as that essential worker. That was.
Well, I remember we were classed as essential workers, which I thought was absolutely crazy.
That's. And
I remember typing up the letter because we looked into it, and our industry come under that, and I thought, how crazy is this? We're a part shop, and yet we're allowed to be classed as that. And I said, but that's what it is. That's what the government's saying. That's what we do.
That's exactly right.
And so we're allowed to stay open and operate.
We closed the showroom, which was. We had a lot of good customers come through that where they'd turn up the showroom, they'd see the doors locked, and they'd just stand out in the car park and give us a ring. It's okay, what's it go? Sorry, man, we're closed, we're not allowed to open the showroom. How can I help you? And so many good customers like that just rang up and were like, okay, great, when can I get it delivered? Say, like, sorry, because we didn't have it at D-Bay at the time then, because obviously we were in the 2 different locations. It's okay, we'll get it delivered to you next week. We've got it in stock, it's all good. So we did, we had a lot of awesome customers through COVID.
Because the D-Bay retail store, you reckon that was before COVID or after?
Definitely.
It was before, was it?
So it was to about 2015.
So that was That was a little 436 metre retail store we set up at Deception Bay. So what we have there, we had probably 2 fitters.
Yeah, two fitters, 2 hoists. I think at one point we might have had 3 fitters.
2 or 3 sales guys.
Yeah, so we had, when I started, it was just Ryan, Ben and Matt.
Yeah, so Ryan and Ben are still with us too.
Yeah, Ryan and Ben. Ryan left for a while and come back, and then...
Yeah, Matt's doing our blue plating.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
We saw
in one of the...
There's a lot of people who have left the company, and there's a lot of people who have stayed in the company.
Yeah.
It just, like we try and look after the people as best as we can, same as I try and look after the customers.
Yeah.
So at that point too, when we had the retail store over at Deception Bay, remember we opened up across the road from that, and because same thing, we couldn't keep up with Boilermakers. I think back at old Burpengary, we were probably like 5 boilies or something like that at that point, and we were out of space. We couldn't put more Boilermaking bays in.
And we ran out of power too, didn't we? We weren't out.
Yeah, we're at max power.
Yeah.
We couldn't pull any more from the grid.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, that was a bit of a problem. So I think that's probably the main reason we went over to Deception Bay. So we started that, and we just got more Boilermakers again.
Yeah.
So at that peak, we were probably like maybe eight Boilermakers or 9 Boilermakers or something like that. So that was working well over there. It was a bit of a mission communicating between the 3 locations.
Yeah, definitely.
But it certainly helped us get more product out the door.
Yeah, Jakey did an awesome job over there. Like, Jakey was over there slaving, running that little boilies shed at D-Bay there. He did awesome for it.
Yeah. What did we do after that? We ended up closing. That must have closed down when we started the new workshop.
Yeah.
That must have been the reason.
Yep. Yeah. So we closed that. So they're still working up. They moved out of that shed to come to the new shed at Burpengary before we did in the showroom and the sales team.
Yeah, I remember. Yep. Okay. Yeah, because that's what have been there about 2020 maybe when we started.
No, it would have been. I started building it, because we weren't in the new shed when I had my time off Crook. Yeah, because it was still at D-Bay then.
Yeah, I reckon 2020 is when we purchased the land.
Yeah. Yep.
Because obviously through COVID, we had enough work, enough money coming in, and we thought, and the land still didn't have the COVID tax hit on it yet. It was expensive in Brisbane, but not stupid expensive like it is now. Yeah. And we found a block of land that was on the freeway. Yep. Perfect location for the sign. Yeah. Like it's literally like you've got a billboard on the freeway every day.
Yeah.
So we bought that block. It was a 5,000 square metre block, I think. Yep. And then we had a company called TPM who was doing the building for us. So my old man was fairly involved not in the building as such, but just managing between myself, I guess, and TPM
trying to run the business and deal with TPM, so you weren't there.
Yeah, I just didn't have the time to be going to deal with TPM about questions and answers. So the old man was helping there, which was great.
Yep.
So that started progressing. That probably took the best part of a year, I think from what I recall, for him to build it.
Yeah.
Big tilt slab building.
Yep.
I remember sitting in the back office at Old Burp I downloaded a program to draw. I remember laying out every rack, every machine. We just wanted it because it was a 2,500 square metre building going on a 5,000 square metre block. Yeah. That's all we could do from council regs because the rest had to be car parks and gardening and whatever else, all the rubbish. So I remember sitting down there with this program and I was working out every exact metre where everything's going to go.
Get everything out of it.
At that point then I think we might have bought, when it was built to the point that we got handover, we had a Christmas party there, didn't we? Right at the...
We did, yeah. We were all there putting stock into it. And then we had Christmas party and had a few beers in the fit bay before it was a fit bay. Yeah.
So we then gradually bought all the stuff across.
Yeah.
I think the boilies were the first operator over there.
Boilie team were the first operator.
Yeah, because it was just literally power. We had to get them in, and obviously they had a toilet and that sort of stuff. So there's 10 boilies there at the moment.
Yep.
So all those bays are all full. It fluctuates a little bit. Sometimes you might be 8 boilies, 9 boilies, or 10. At the moment we're on 10. Yep. We had the CNC machines. We brought them over.
Yeah.
We didn't bring them over. We got them installed at that point. We got that CNC laser cutter.
The laser cutter was the first one. Yeah. Yep.
So it got put in, and the reason we put a new laser, it was a 6 kilowatt. We bought that new because it was just, timelines are getting too long. Customers are screaming for parts.
Yeah.
We're waiting 2 or 3 weeks just to get parts cut for us.
Yeah. Yep.
Then we got to make it. Then we got to send it to coders, who then take another 2 weeks. Then now all of a sudden you got a customer that's waited 6 or 8 weeks.
Yeah.
So it just wasn't working for us trying to do that way. So we invested in the laser cutter, got it installed. So it cuts. I'd love it to cut longer than it just cuts at the moment, 8 hours a day.
Yep.
I'd love to start running it through the night, but at the moment we haven't really got a foreman there to run it through the night.
Yeah, exactly.
So
yeah.
then we started, I guess, bringing all the stuff across from old Burpengary.
Yeah.
We bought all the stuff that we went and bought all new racking, got all that put in. The stock we bought over was all the smaller, fast-moving stock.
Yeah.
We left all the big stuff at old Burpengary. Then from that point, we were probably, I think when we left old Burp, we were about 50 staff.
Yeah, I think we were 50
I
when we
think,
moved
and
in,
we're
yeah,
at capacity. You had no more. You couldn't pull any more power from the building. You couldn't fit more people in there. You couldn't do anything. You couldn't. There was no room to stack
shipping
anything.
Containers working. Yeah,
It was pretty hectic. When we come over to old Burpengary, we worked on a theory of, I think, what do you reckon we got? 20, probably 20 office? No, probably more than 20 office staff.
Oh, now
Probably 30.
Yeah, we'd have 30. Like the whole office is full now. It was quite when we first moved there was a lot of bays free.
Yeah.
We've definitely brought on, and we brought on a lot more departments inside the office as well.
Yeah, as you progress, we sort of think, well, we need someone to do whatever, to do marketing, someone to do social media, someone to do camera work, someone to do video work, someone
Graphic
to do
design.
graphic design. Like it's
technical writing. Like we've got everything.
There's always, you could always just keep putting more and more people on. The problem is we've now run out of space again.
Yeah. So, I think we've got one desk at reception.
It'll be full because we've got anher 2 ladies starting next week.
Right, yeah.
So we've every space is taken.
You get Cuddles and someone in your office soon.
Yeah, we'll have to divide the office in half. But yeah, like every time we put that new staff member on, it just makes the company that little bit better again.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's just taken time. You've gone from a company that had myself that did everything, whether it was a bit of marketing, because we used, for marketing back then, you used just an ad, paper ad went in EMG, which was your full drive action. Everyone would have remembered full drive action.
Yep.
Then it became 24/7.
Yeah.
Very simple. You just take a heap of photos, send it to them, and say, "Hey, whack this in an ad," and off you go. But there was nothing professional about it.
No, they had someone write a quick blurb up about the product, and
well, you did it. Yeah, you did a couple of magazine articles with people.
Yep.
Nowadays, you've got all your different people in those departments. We've got that specialise in all those, and that's why now you see our marketing and social presence is a lot more than what it's ever been.
Exactly.
And it's just because we're getting the money and the staff,
the resources
to do
there
it,
to
the resources.
be able to do it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Help push.
Yep. We're at a bit of a crossroads now where we are with, we're at that point again where we were with old Burpengary, where you got to go to a new building. We're at that point again now, and we've only been in this new shed 3 years, 2 years.
I think we moved in 2022.
Yeah.
January 4th
Pretty
we
sure
were
it's
open.
3 years. The problem is now every office table's taken. We're at like 75 staff, I think.
Yeah.
With these 2 new ladies starting. It could even be more, but I'd be very safe to say 74, 75 staff.
Yep.
It's a lot in a 2,500 metre building.
Yeah, definitely.
Like you drive down our road and it's just our cars.
It's just our cars, yeah. The line up at the smoko truck sucks.
Yeah. But it's a good thing. But yeah, I've kind of got to try and think about what I'm going to do in the next step where we're going to take the business, because the next step's going to have to be a big step.
Yeah.
I've sort of toyed with ideas of getting another shed and basically splitting it apart again, like we did at Old Burp, where you had Old Burp and D-Bay.
And then stock. Yep.
The thing with that is it really sucks because everything's not under one roof. When you get, say, an international person come over and they want to look at your business, you've got to take it to multiple places.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas at the moment, it's really good. You can just walk someone down there, you can show them the racking, you can show them the machines running, you can show them welding something, bolting something in the car.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
R&D, like they can see the whole thing.
Yeah.
So they get a good idea what your company's like and the shape of it. But yeah, I've just sort of got to make a decision, I guess, in my life where we're going to push it.
Yep.
How much more? Like we got Sam Turnbull come on board with us probably. I think he's like 8 years with us or something.
Yeah, he was just after me. I think he would have started late 2017.
Yeah, so Sam, I'm pretty sure Sam, he come on as marketing.
He did,
I'm
yeah.
sure.
He started as he was running all of our socials and that sort of thing.
And Sam really excelled in just putting the effort in more than the average person did. And Sam come to me at one point, and I was really struggling at that point of just, I couldn't cope with it. There was too much work. One person just can't run the business like that.
Yeah.
And I think that was about the point, like Sam come to me and said, hey, because I went to him and said, we need to get a general manager to help.
I remember this conversation a long time ago.
Yeah, and Sam put his hand up and said he'd be happy to do it. And I was sort of humming and hawing, and because he didn't really have his expertise in that. He had come from the corporate world.
Yeah.
Which was always a little bit of a struggle for me because I've never been in anything corporate in my life, apart from the government's office when you're talking suspension.
Yeah,
but,
it's very different. It was like I went to a meeting with Sam the other day about media stuff, and I was like, "You guys are using real big words, man. Like I'm not used to this stuff."
Yeah, just give me something to make. Anyway, me and my wife had a long, hard think about it, and we decided to give Sam a go, and that's one of the best things we've done for the company. Like everyone does a great job in that company, but Sam has gone far beyond what I would have expected for someone. And he's really done a lot of things for the company, pushed it a lot further than what I could have pushed it. So that over the last, and that's probably why you see some leaps and bounds in the last 4 or 5 years. Where it's really progressed forwards. It's literally just more manpower to be able to do things, to be able to contact people and organise things and all that.
Exactly. Talk to marketing partners, all sorts of stuff that Sam
whereas
does.
If I get too much going on, I just go, I can't be bothered. And whereas Sam will just push through and get it done.
That's it. Like, it's so funny. Sometimes Sam will be like, right, Mitch, we're going, see motorculture for a meeting or something. He'll just throw me the keys. He's like, I got to work, dude. You drive. I was like, okay. So I'll drive us down there, and Sam will sit on his phone the whole time, sending emails and writing things in his diary. So he's always working.
Whereas if it was me, I'd just go, I couldn't be bothered. Whatever. Keep making stuff. But that doesn't grow the business.
Exactly.
So that was a huge step forward for us, having Sam do that sort of thing. Around that same period, we restructured a way that a lot of the business works with our team leaders and everything. Because I remember back in the early days, old Burp and all that, we never had team leaders. It was literally, I just went out there and yelled at people and told people to do things properly. Whereas now it's all team leader stuff. So you've got in say, fitting, you've got a team leader. In packing, you've got a team leader.
Assembly.
Assembly. And then you got your managers sort of above them. So it's a bit more structured now, which has helped a lot because now I don't have to go out there and have a meeting with 75 people. I can just say, team leaders, this is what your meeting's going to be about. Go and talk to those guys. So that's certainly helped us a lot too, just getting that structure in place.
Definitely.
SSM, so that's a big thing for the company now. Some may be aware what SSM is, second stage manufacture. Like a lot of your performance cars and all that were done back in the day.
Like a Walkinshaw, Nismo, they're all a second stage of someone.
So basically what it was, you've got your original manufacturer, so we'll talk Toyota in this one. So Toyota builds a car, brings it to Australia, brings it in, gets it all ready for sale, customer buys a car. Before they register the car, they make contact with us. Then at that point, we can guide them in the way that they need to be to get it to work for them. But basically what it is we convert the vehicle to a superior engineering vehicle. And then that car's legal in Australia. It basically, there's a few rules that are different between state and federal. This comes under federal.
Under federal.
So what it means is you could put a lift in the thing that's a superior engineering lift, 5-inch 37s as an example.
Yep.
It's legal Australia-wide. So even though the New South Wales regulations or Queensland regulations might say 2 inches all you can have,
Yep.
our SSM states that we can have 5-inch on, say, 37s.
Yep.
So the federal overrules the state.
Yeah, exactly. In a way, in a roundabout's way, the car is seen as stock kind of thing.
That's it.
Yeah,
That's what we're putting to the market. Even though we market it as 5-inch 37, that is our standard height vehicle as it's come out of our factory.
Yeah, exactly.
37s,
Right.
5-inch lift.
Yep,
So it just comes down to, it's just a marketing thing, because you can imagine if we market it as this is our standard cruiser,
Yeah.
and no one's seen a photo of it, they'd think, well, it's on standard tyres, standard lift.
Yeah, exactly
You've
right,
kind of
yeah.
got to market it the way you have to for people to understand.
Yeah.
So we started the SSM stuff. Greg was heavily involved. It was pretty well, but probably back a bit that I never talked about. If you probably go back to about 2012, maybe at a guess, 2000 and we had the decision to go street legal with a lot of stuff. This probably similar sort of timeline to when we started doing the the 4x4 accessories, the premium 4x4 accessories. We kind of thought, well, hardcore was fading.
Yep.
Let's go to be street legal. Because prior to that, we had this little yellow sticker we used to put on everything. You might have seen it, and it said for off-road use only.
Yeah.
Little triangle.
I had got parts with it.
That stuffed me up pretty good for years, because I was putting this thing on thinking I'm doing the right thing.
Yep.
And then the problem was, once we started talking to some external engineers on how to do things legal,
Yep.
and we started getting things all done through primarily Queensland government, the transport department was then seeing these little yellow stickers on items out there, and they just say, no, all superior stuff's illegal. It's all off-road use.
Yeah.
And there was this timeline of years when transport was just going, no, we don't accept it.
Yep.
Yet the hierarchy has accepted it. But the officers don't want to accept it. So it was a bit of a shit fight there. But we eventually got over that. But we made that change in the business to go as much street legal stuff as we could.
Yeah. What was that push? Was it just
I think there was
the change in the market?
I think it was the business growing to the size it was, and now I'm no longer just a person who's going to lose $50 if the business falls over. You now got the responsibility at that point of 50 staff. I've got all the money tied up with everything. I can't just go and get sued because old mate's going to put something on that's wrong and shit the bed, and he's going to kill his family. So it was now, okay, well, what can we do to minimise risk? And it was street legal. Get the things to be able to be used on the road safely.
Have them signed
And
off.
the byproduct of that too is the extra testing you've got to do. If anything was to ever happen and someone was to unfortunately die or get injured, you've got so much data backup that you've actually done all the testing, you've done the lanes change testing, whether you do ESC, whether you do whatever you do, destruction testing, whatever. But you've got all that data there for information if you end up in front of a coroner. Whereas prior to that, it was literally the old Kevin McCord test, which doesn't hold up in a court of law. That he jumped the truck 8 feet high and landed on the front wheels and didn't bust.
Exactly. That's not a court legal binding document.
So that changed the business a lot too. We had a lot of criticism from other companies, and we still get it to this day, saying we're full of shit, that's not legal, whatever. And it's, whatever, you got your opinion, keep it, whatever you want to do, whether you want to tell everyone or keep it to yourself, but that's your opinion. But the fact of the matter is, if we as a company the size we are with 75 staff, if I'm saying something street legal, it's street legal.
It's exactly right. It's not a lot of shit.
I'm not benefiting anything lying to someone saying this is legal and it's not.
That's exactly right.
We're constantly having an up battle against laws changing. That's a hard thing for us, because we got caught out once. You might remember Frankie's Hilux.
That was
okay. So had a customer, LN80 Hilux. This one
N80.
N80, sorry.
Whatever it is.
We were just getting into this SSM stuff, and at that point, you could do an in-service off an SSM, and we were doing the I think it was a wide track.
It was the X-Track we were building.
X-Track, sorry. The wide track. Basically, it was, at that point, we could do an SSM and then we could apply that to a Queensland registered car.
No, Vic. It was Victoria.
Oh, was it Victoria? Was it?
Frankie's
Well, wherever it
Victoria.
was, yeah. Anyway, at that point, the law changed.
Yeah.
And then I had to buy the customs car.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because we'd converted the car, modified it, changed it,
Yep.
put the wide track and everything on it, and now all of a sudden overnight,
Yeah.
a new law come through. And it's like there's no going back, oh, well, you were halfway through that build while we changed the law, we'll let you do that.
Yeah.
It's like, no, well, today's the day it changed. And,
That's it. And that was such an overnight change, for special, like in a whole for Victoria.
Yeah.
Because we went from, we can engineer stuff in Victoria to just a roadblock brick wall. It would just, purchase a car out of it, and then of still having arguments with engineers and all sorts of stuff in Victoria.
Well, that's been an onflow from that time.
Yeah.
It's still an ongoing thing with engineers getting audited all the time and all that. Like from that point forwards in history, it's just been a nightmare.
Yeah, VAS is extremely strict on their engineers. They're always getting audited and that sort of thing. And that'll flow on to the rest of Australia as well. It's just a matter of time, unfortunately.
Yeah. With the street legal stuff, there was a lot of money that got tied up in that from that point on. When I started doing that, it was not too expensive. You had one external engineer we used that basically would do all the stuff. He's FEA, and then he's whatever testing he had to do. Wasn't too expensive, but as time's gone on, we've had to get, and laws keep changing all that, we've had to get more money invested in the testing.
Yeah.
So you end up getting more and more engineers involved.
Yes.
And it's probably at the point now, I'm having a complete guess here, but it'll be in the millions of dollars a year we're spending just in trying to get stuff legal. And a lot of the stuff that you get legal, you'll never ever recover that cost.
No.
But it's more that if we're going to put a product to market, we've got to try and have it safe.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunately just the bad part of this industry.
That's exactly. It's like when Queensland brought in the 100mm lift stuff. They were like, yep, you can do your 100mm lift, but your rule book and testing data goes from being this thick a book to this thick. Yeah. It's just a massive step up, and that's just...
it's just a red tape, and the paper trail is just... It's like everything in government now. It's just getting more and more and more.
Yep.
Australian manufacturing, like if we talk about the Australian manufacturing in the company, I'd still say probably 95% is made in Australia.
Yeah.
Some of the things we get from overseas, but it's very few bits and pieces. And it's only if it's a part that you can't source the material cheap in Australia, cheap enough.
Yeah, like a shock. You can't be market competitive.
I don't believe so for a shock. There's people who claim Australian-made shocks in Australia. I know for a fact all the parts aren't made in Australia.
Yeah.
Like the parts that are getting made overseas, they're coming here, they're getting assembled.
That's exactly right, yeah.
It's, at the end of the day, it's probably still, they're probably still within their right to say Australian-made, depending on the level of the amount that's getting done. Who knows?
And that's
their
argument.
IP. I don't know anything about that. But yeah, it's a hard one when you're manufacturing in Australia. The government doesn't get, like I've never got a government grant ever in my life. I've never, at one point, I got Greg to look into it. I forget what it was for. Might have been the Superflex arm. And for us, for what we manufacture, it wasn't worth it.
Yeah, okay.
Because for the time for us to get all the information together, compile it as to what we're going to get back from the government, you may as well just have your engineer work on the next product.
Yeah, exactly.
And, but there's other businesses out there that are tied in with, say, defence and all that. Yep. They're reaping
reaping the rewards of the government. Yeah,
it's unfortunate the government just doesn't support everyone the same.
Yeah, that is, and that is like, unfortunately, the government for especially in our sector, I guess you could say, is they do not support the manufacturing. Yeah, there's no looking at it, no bothering.
Some of the other countries, Thailand, for example, like we've been over Thailand a few times because that's where the shocks come from. Yep. Like they're very well looked after from the government if they're exporting.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a shame that Australians not the same.
Yeah, it definitely is a big shame, I think, because I think it's something that a lot of Australians take a lot of pride in manufacturing. I know you do definitely, of keeping it all made in-house, and it helps, the quality of the product you're giving out, but yeah, it's definitely something that will go by the wayside from lack of support from the government. So basically we did the Cruiser first, which we still got that car, the very first car, the grey, what would you call it?
grey.
Graphite 79, I think that's what it is, yeah. 1G3 graphite.
We did that. We've done a few company cars now in 79s because I just like them.
They
People say they're shit, but I like them.
They're a workhorse, they're perfect for what, especially like you're up here at the farm all the time and that. Perfect
Go
car
out
for
to
it.
Wemiran and every second truck's a cruiser.
Yeah, that's exactly
right. It just
right,
comes down to, if you're a town person, well, maybe they're not for you.
Yeah.
If you're out on a property somewhere or you use it as a work truck, I love them.
Yeah, that's how I don't see. I'm a Nissan guy, but I don't see a problem with the 79. Like, I think they're a workhorse. They're great. They're tourer. They've got a good GVM from factory. There's billions of aftermarket support from us and other companies. Yeah, 79's a great platform.
What did we do in a timeline of that? So we did the 79 first, then we would have done a Hilux SSM.
No, it would have been Prado next because Amy had the Prado. Yeah, Amy had the 150, so that was the next one we did.
That was a bit of a fizzer. We didn't really sell that many of them.
No, the Prado, the 150, I don't know if it was just the oldness of that 150 platform.
I think it's just the people. I've noticed in this industry from day dot, different car brands are owned by different breeds of people.
That's exactly right.
Prado people are Prado people, Jeep people are Jeep people, Toyota people are Toyota people.
Yeah, that's exactly, and that's what we do get that a lot of sometimes backlash from customers of saying like, why haven't you done this for that car, or how come it's just another Toyota? We have to look at value in the market.
Whether you're going to sell the part.
That's exactly right. We are a business. We can't put, like it is. What's a lane change test worth? 20 grand to once it's just one lane change test. We can't put that value into a car that we're not going to resell a whole bunch of product into that platform.
Yeah, we've got a fairly good idea what sells and what doesn't with brands and all that, and that is exactly why sometimes we won't touch specific brands, and I can see why it upsets customers.
Yeah,
but
100%.
It's a business. We've got X amount of hours in a day that we're going to produce product, and if I'm losing one or two, like yesterday was an example, we had a Jimny on the hoist, so the boys are going front to back on a Jimny. We got short wheelbase, long wheelbase from Suzuki, like brand new cars. And everyone's been going, why won't you do Suzuki? It's been so long and all. It's just we haven't had time. But we've finally got the cars on the hoist and we've got some time allocated. But they're out there. They've done pretty much everything on it. The only thing left to do was the fuel tank guard. So they're out there scratching their head. And I walked out and said, "What are you doing?" And they said, "This is what we're thinking." And I just said, "Forget it. Don't even bother." I said, for the amount you're going to sell, as to the work and the time it's going to take you to design that, get it right, make something look right and professional, and be strong, and any benefit, don't bother.
That's exactly right. You do
basically
have
I turned around and walked away.
To be a successful in business, as a businessman you have to sometimes cut the dead weight. Essentially is the easiest way to explain it. You've got to look at something and say, is it worth the next 3 months of wages paying those guys and material and that? Am I going to sell that again? And it just, unfortunately, and it does suck because you have to look at people, and we may have a joke on our socials. You take the piss out of Tritons,
and we try and do that. We try and do that carefully. It's kind of a bit of a joking thing.
It's a joking thing, and the thing is because there is people out there that have a Triton and they are crazy proud of it, and they have every damn right to be. There's nothing that we don't like you as a person. We don't like your car. If you're proud of your whatever car it may be, Lada Niva, like if you love the thing, good on you. Like no one can tell you that you can't do it. It's just unfortunately as a business we do have to look at where we can be successful to keep our doors open.
Yeah, that's it. So we did the Prado. Then it was probably Hilux. Because around that time is when we're doing your core conversions and that sort of stuff. Because that was all sort of tied in with that Joshy was doing
with Joshy and with the PX Ranger, because they're very similar.
I think the PX would have been after the Hilux.
No, PX was definitely first.
Was it before the Hilux, you reckon?
Yeah, definitely, because you owned the blue one.
And that's another example of a platform that's not a good seller like that. That PX2 core conversion worked unreal. Like comfortable, wasn't expensive. I think it was like probably a $3,000 or $4,000 kit.
Yeah, when it first came out.
Street you get it street legal in Queensland and most other states, just with the approvals. But we didn't really sell that many of them.
No, and again, you do. It's like where you look at the market, like tradies own Ford Rangers. Sometimes they don't want a core kit or whatever it may be. Like there may be a heap of Rangers out there, they've all got lift kits, but if they're all stacked full of tools, that person's not going to be like, I need a core conversion. We just have to play that market
Yeah.
knowledge.
Yeah. After the Hilux with them, that's probably when we started toying. I think that would have been about when I said to Greg, what can we do that no one else has done before? Because we're sort of getting our head around this SSM thing, what you can and can't do, how far you can push it within the company to still have a safe vehicle on the road, not have worry about someone getting injured or anything like that.
Yeah.
And we said, what about just a stupid wide Hilux?
Yeah.
And we thought, okay, let's do. What do we do? We went, I think it was like 11 inches wide or something.
Yeah, 11 inches overall.
11 and a half inches wider.
Yeah, I think the wheel offset, I think it was 12, but we had to change wheel offset for 80 Rs to make sure it didn't go over.
It would have been, it was probably something to do with the headlight, where the headlight position is as to the overall width of the tyre.
Yeah, exactly.
It was probably becoming a problem. Anyway, I think it was 11 and a half when it went to market. You had 35-inch tyres, about a 4-inch lift, I think, something like that.
It was 6 inches taller than factory, 11 inches wider, I believe.
It was an animal.
Yeah.
The thing, just the flex the thing had was unreal.
Yeah.
The comfort it had, it looked pretty aggressive. We sold quite a few of them. They're a pain in the arse to build.
Yeah, they're a long, lengthy build.
There is a lot of work that people don't see that goes into all the panel work and all that sort of thing.
That's where the majority of the work is.
There's a lot of the car cut away to make it work. And it's all replacement guards and all that. But that was pretty cool. Motorculture, I think, did a couple of giveaways.
Yeah, they've done it. So they've kept the red one, the red
got that
build.
one, have they?
So yeah, both the people that won it, so they've drawn it twice, which they don't want to run it again just purely for dragging the market out on one car. So they've kept it. So that's what, when we had a meeting with Maria and the guys yesterday, and she's like, do you want it for the full drive show? I was like, oh, we're not going to the full drive show, but I'm like, hey, can we have it? just have a look at it. It's a cool one. They gave yours away, and then they're in talks with Isaac that owns Shane's. They've been chatting to Isaac about getting that as well, because they just love the extracts.
I couldn't believe how much nicer they drive than a normal Hilux.
Oh yeah,
just that extra width, like the big wide control arms, big wide diff. And then you had your big offset tyres.
Yeah, and a lot of people didn't realise with it as well. I've actually been talking to a few customers about the extract this week, and unfortunately we can't offer the extract anymore just with relation to new VIN numbers coming out in the Hilux. But a lot of people don't realise we doubled the wheel travel in the front end. So that's probably the first time it's happened on a street legal car in Australia or in IFS to go from, I think it's like 7 inches of wheel travel to 14, which is fantastic compared to a stock standard Hilux front end.
Yeah, so the comfort was unbelievable because you weren't going to your full rebound.
Exactly.
That's where most of your harsh ride comes from when a shock ends up maxing out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, a lot of people think it's more compression. After we did that, I think we probably then did the 35-inch 37. I think that was a good one because we'd never really intended that thing to go to market. It was more just how Greg's got a thing. We always push things past. Like when we do our testing, it's always pushed past where we want it to be legal. So you've got that extra info up your sleeve. If something goes wrong, well, no, we pushed it faster, higher, wider, whatever. And we did the 5-inch 37, took it to Norwell, doing some lanes change testing, transport department, or not transport department, it was vehicle standards. Come down, wanted to, I don't know if it must have been the engineer they talked to or Greg, and said they want to come down and see what we're doing. So they went down there, had a look. We got them in the car, got two of the engineers, the vehicle standards engineers. In the car. And they did the lane change test. No worries. And we still stewed on it for a while, whether to put it to market. But then, I don't know, one day, whatever reason, I made a decision. I thought, stuff it, let's put it out there. The thing drives fine. It drives nice.
It does.
Like all the company cars now are all 5-inch 37 cruisers.
And the 5-inch 37 kit is so popular. Like it's a huge seller. It's bigger than anyone else's out there in the market, and it's like most of the 79s that I come see in as I'm doing my work Fridays in the workshop videos and that sort of thing. They're all 5-inch 37 kits. Like it's awesome. Like all the stuff we get tagged in on social media.
There's a few options of 4-inch 35s out there. Others are doing. So that's possibly why. After we did that one, we went probably the Jeep. I'd say
Yeah, the Jeep was the next
so
one.
the Jeep was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So we got connected in with Metal Cloak over in the US, because this was about, this is getting near the timeline when we started doing American stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
So we got our hands on a Jeep. I think the thing that inspired me a little bit was Patriot did their Jeep build. And I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. Like, I'm not a Jeep person. I really don't think much of Jeeps as a car. But I thought that one looks pretty cool. Let's do that, something different instead of just Toyota. So we did that. What do we got there? 37-inch.
It's your 4.5-inch 37s.
Yeah. So I drove that today when we've come here. Like, I don't mind it. I still like my Cruiser better.
I like the Jeep. Even driving into the city.
It's just different. The thing sounds like it's got a little race engine in it. Like, it's just tinny kind of exhaust. That's the standard exhaust on it, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it's good, but they've got the weird loop in them.
Wraps around. I think that's just to annoy you. Just
that's
noise.
what I said. We'll just waste some material.
I don't know what that is, but yeah, it's pretty good. I think we've done a few of them. I think that's due to go back to one of the Jeep dealers. They're putting them on to put the car out display.
Yeah, I think it's going to Keystar again, because they had it for the Moreton Bay show.
Yeah.
And then I think it's going back to Keystar.
Yeah.
The kit in that, so there's been a few videos of me in a passenger seat of a car in a bikini. It's in Jeff from Do It in the Dirt's car with the exact same long arm kit in it up Beercock Hill at the Springs. I was blown away by how much traction Jeff's car had.
Yeah.
Jeff said he's driven up that hill.
That was one of our SSMs, wasn't it?
No,
it's just the same suspension.
It's the same suspension kit. So he's just got the JL, not the Gladiator. And he's like, I've always wanted to drive up here, up Beercock Hill in third gear. He's like, I've always thought it'd do it really easy, but let's try it. Your
Whatever,
car,
I'm in a bikini.
Yeah, I'm in a bikini and I've had too many beers. Let's go. And shout out to Eden Meredith for that one. And like how well it just soaked the bumps up and drove straight up the hill. I was in the car and Jeff would have it on video. I'm just like, there's so much traction. Like, it just ate the hill so easily. It's the SSM. I'd love to get our Jeep off road, but I need to keep it nice to sell.
I have to sell it one day. So we did the SSMs were certainly a big part of that company, which we'll keep doing with that. We'll keep progressing along, doing more and more.
Yeah, we've got the 300
at the moment, it's
now.
a bit of a nightmare. Just so many changes within the Rover system. Yeah, where everyone is just getting stuffed around. And you've constantly got changes with vehicle. Like, you got to remember, when we started this company back in 2000, they used to have the 10-year lifespan of a car. So you think of like a GQ went for 10 years, a GU went for 10 years, a 80-10, like all roughly 10 years. Exactly. But it was that now you look at a car, they're bringing those timelines in closer, and they're bringing the facelifts of the old cars back then were a set of headlight change, like a headlight change or a tail light change. Now you're looking at each year almost, you're now getting a fairly substantial change on a vehicle.
And then KDSS update and things like that.
And especially for people like bull bars and that, we don't really do bull bars. We do it for the SSMs and that's it. But it'll be a nightmare. Oh yeah, because they're constantly changing things and all the like you think of all the problems we have at work all the time in the fit bay, fitting other people's bull bars with sensor issues. It would be a nightmare to deal with all the time. And then you've got things like CAN FD coming in the Toyotas. That was a big thing for us. CAN FD when they brought that in the 300, working out the speedo on it was a bit of a a head thing for us.
That's something that a lot of people don't understand is what we do internally as well is we have Chris. Chris is an electrical engineer. He's an absolute genius when it comes to things like if you look at Chris's Falcon, it is fitted out with every sensor and that you can
Still won't beat the Tirana, mate.
I recken it'll beat the Tirana. Nah. I reckon because you're too scared to drive the Tirana.
I'm going to get some drag slicks.
Get some drag slicks might help. But he does all that sort of stuff and he designs our entire computer system that works at work.
Well, he did the one thing we never broached on was the EMS.
The EMS,
Yeah, that is like back then and I reckon that would have been roughly 2006 around that time. Yeah. We were getting to the point it was starting to grow the business, and I went around with Greg. I went around to one of his Greg. I was sitting at the pub at Kalanga, and he said, "I want you to come over and meet Damien, one of his mates. So this is one of Greg's friends." Yeah, okay. Sat down and he pulled his laptop out and he said, "Oh, this is what we use at the print shop to manage everything." And I was blown away. It was like all these all these graphs and shit showing what jobs are where and what's doing this and that, and it's like, wow, we were still back in paper.
Yeah, carbon books.
Well, not even carbon. It was literally notepad. And I was like, this customer's job, phone number. Have you called him?
Yeah.
Drop shackles and like cross it out.
Yeah.
And I seen this EMS and I thought, wow, that's unbelievable. And at that point then I said to Damien, all right, I want to do it. Let's just start doing it. And I thought at that point, let's just get his program and write superior engineering on it. It's done.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. It was a whole new writing a structure.
Yep.
So I don't know anything about coding. That's not me.
Yeah.
I like picking up steel.
Yeah.
But basically that program he wrote for us from the very start, that program runs every single thing within the company.
Yep.
So it runs the things it runs everything to do with sales. It runs the phones. It runs the workshop.
The website.
Website.
That's what I've always, it's called the EMS. I've always thought it should be the OMS, is ordering, manufacturing and sales.
Yeah.
But
it's pretty cool. That made the business jump a long way ahead with that. But it's just been little changes. And at times we've thought, we want a better program, but we've looked at it and it's been big dollars.
Yeah.
You're talking, like those sorts of programs, you're talking $1 million.
Wow. Yeah.
For some of those programs.
Yeah.
So that's how we got to progress to the level we are now.
Yep.
Without a program like that, you could not manage superior engineering.
Yeah, no, that's it. And we just get to listen to Chris, because I sit so close to him swearing when something goes wrong in the system and he has to fix it.
Yeah. there's always a bug. There's always something happening.
Yeah, that's just computers.
Yeah. But yeah, like a lot of people don't realise the company how much we actually spit out the door every day. Like we got semi-trailers coming in, taking stuff out. It's not, when you ring up as a customer, it's not, I've got to be careful how I say it, it's not just yourself that's getting a product made just for you.
Yeah. Yep.
There's, like you said earlier, when you do radius arms, you do 1,000 of them, or when you do control arms, you do 1,000 of them or 500.
Yep.
Like it's not, we don't go, we've got a phone call from Joe Blow, we're going to make one control arm. Yeah. It just doesn't work that way. We're not geared up for it. We're geared up for production. Yeah. The same as any big company is. Yeah. And unfortunately, things got to go in time.
Exactly.
lines.
Yeah. And we've got to work off the fact of the first paid invoice date.
That's what we always try and stick to, because that I'm not up to date that much with the EMS anymore. I don't really get into it anymore since I stepped away from sales. But that rearranges in your EMS all your paid dates, and it goes off paid. So you could ring up today. Hey, I want to buy this, whatever, control arm. Yep, here's an invoice, I'm going to send it to you by email because you want to do EFT. If you don't pay that, it's not progressing. It's not doing anything, because you haven't, at the moment, you're just a person who's saying you want to buy it. You haven't proven that you want it by paying for it. So the next person who's paid for it would actually jump in front.
That's exactly right,
But I'm pretty sure they're pretty clear with that with customers, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. We always tried to say it is from your paid date is when your items are getting organised. Because sometimes, like, I've gone into the EMS and it's been, say, patrol remote res shocks. Go, rightio, we've got 60 in stock. Go, right, how many available for sale do I have? 0. Because all 60 are paid for. It is like, the way we can't just tell that customer, this guy's yelled at me, he's going to get his products earlier. That person would then yell back that they've paid earlier. It's that person's product essentially, because they've paid for it. It's just then got to work through the packing system to get shipped out to that person. The
thing that I know you guys get caught out on sometimes is when a customer rings up and says, hey, have you got this? Look on the computer, look in the stock control. Yep, we got that. But then the customer doesn't ring back for another 3 hours. Meanwhile, you sold it. I see that happen every now and then.
And that is the hard thing, because you get someone that ring up and be like, my wife, I left my wallet in my wife's car, I'll give you a call back. And unfortunately, we have, how many sales staff we got now? 15?
Yeah, probably.
If someo's in the showroom, not in the back office, and hasn't heard that conversation, even though
which you rarely do. There's that many people talking constantly in that place.
If I've got your invoice, I've sent it to you. Unfortunately, if someone walks into the showroom, puts their credit card down, pays for it, and takes it, unfortunately, that customer does lose that. And unfortunately, we've just then got to work on manufacturing and let that customer know, sorry, you have missed out. But we have more coming, because it's rarely that by the time a product sells out, we either, whether it's, say, shocks, we've got more coming, or if it's a control arm, the boys are making more. It's just got to get through zinc plating, whether it's powder coating, welding, whichever. It's just got to get through that. It's not that the fact that, oh, we've sold out and now we need to go and make some, because that EMS is set up on a min-max. Once it gets, we've got below 5 in stock, it's then Shane a prompt, you need to manufacture these so we can have more on the shelf.
Yeah, the big killer is when it's gone down to manufacturing, you got 10 Boilermakers down there, but the problem is you've also got 500 other orders of 500 pieces.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So there's, it's not a matter of, it's just going to be click your fingers and overnight we get stuff. Sometimes we do, sometimes we can rearrange bits and pieces and make miracles happen.
That's exactly right.
But a lot of the times it's just a waiting game with like we try, like the customers wouldn't know, but we got so many millions of dollars of stock on the shelf. There is, you've done quite a few videos of walking down, like you wouldn't have done a video over at Old Burp either.
No.
But like there is a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah.
There's very few people in the full drive industry that would be holding as much stock as what we do for the stuff, for the products we sell, and even things like EFS shocks and springs and all that. Like we hold a lot of stock.
Yeah,
like,
and that's another thing that I love in the warehouse. Like say, so it's a towing mirror. Unfortunately, that's been a popular model, so that sold out. That the towing mirror company, whichever, MSA, Clearview, whoever it may be, they're smashing out their manufacturing to get it done. Instead of us going, we've got 4 customers waiting, or some like 79 mirrors, we've got 40 customers waiting. We'll just go manufacture us 60 pairs. So we've got a bit of backing to make sure we can hold stock for people that haven't called up and paid us yet as well.
The hard thing is you can't also see, you can't tell what's going to happen that day. You could have someone post something on Facebook that, or Insta or whatever, starts a trend for that part, and now all of a sudden you got 50 people wanting it overnight.
Yeah, and that's the thing. One product I see that has that happen all the time, and it's a super random product, is the T30 X Trail strut spaces we make. So they're strut space.
Yeah, they were done. I remember I designed them years ago. Like they were one of the first things that I would have designed back in the early 2000s.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and they're super cool because they're all offset.
But they're not the nicest looking. Like you can make them out of nice bling aluminium, which we should one day.
Yeah, exactly. You definitely could make a billet one. But it's in, and it seems to be England. There'll be a post up saying like, I need a little bit more ground clearance, and we'll sell 5-10 sets of them to England. It's just from a little post in a forum over there. And and you do get that. It's like the billet alley long arms.
Yeah,
we made 200 pairs. They bit a poster up. It's like, we have sold 200 pairs. Like it's
you can't. A lot of times you can't pick up what you're going to sell.
You can't pick what's going to explode, what's not. It's just we've just got to do our best all the time.
There's like the company's bringing out some pretty cool aluminium stuff, which the customers will just keep seeing this stuff coming. There's quite a few cool things in the pipeline. One of the really nice things I like is the mud flap. Have you would have seen the mud flap?
Or mud flap disconnects? Yeah, I've seen. Yeah, I saw the 3D printed ones.
So that's another patented item.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, so it was a little while waiting to get the patent to get sorted.
Yep, cool.
But yeah, I think they're probably in production now.
Yeah, okay, awesome.
But they're pretty good.
Yeah, cool. And that's, everyone wants a disconnect mud flap. I couldn't count how many times I've ripped one off.
Yeah, I'll just say is ripping the thing off your car and then damaging your panel work. When you go wheel and take the thing off,
yeah, exactly.
Put it back on to be legal when you get home.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah, it's a bit of a win-win. But yeah, we're always, as a company, we're always trying to think of new ideas.
Yeah.
It's hard because there's only so many things you can do to a full drive, and we've been doing it for 20 years.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
What we see now too is with cars coming out of the factory, OE cars, they've changed over the last, I'd say probably in the last 5 years, thereabouts, if I was to put a rough timeline on it, they've dramatically changed their thinking, OE manufacturers. If you look at older sort of cars, let's go right back to say an old Tirana, HQ, something like that. Most basic thing in it. It did what it had to do.
Yeah.
It basically had window winders,
wheels
ignition
bolted on.
thing, wheels bolted on, the thing drove.
Yeah.
You didn't have, half of them didn't have aircon or power steering back then. Then as you see the years gone by, people want more and more and more to now what we're starting to see, especially in just the last couple of years now from Toyota, you got your rugged, your Rogues and all that.
Yeah.
They got the bash plate, they got the recovery point, they got the flares, they got everything in the radio, they got the whole lot.
Yeah.
keeps your bum warm while you're driving down the road.
Yeah,
whatever, does everything.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit of a hurdle for the likes of ourselves and that aftermarket manufacturers, because these cars are starting to come out with a lot of that stuff.
Exactly. Yeah.
You will never. The companies will never stop people buying stuff because everyone wants to personalise their stuff.
Yeah.
Just because, I guess, the positive way of looking at it is just because you bought a Rugged or a Rogue or whatever and it's got a red recovery point. Did you want a red recovery point?
No, yeah.
Maybe not.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you like that recovery point? Maybe not.
Yeah.
I want one that's a round hole, not a square hole.
Yeah.
So we've still got to be positive, I think, manufacturers in the industry about it, but it is becoming that bit harder.
Yeah, definitely. Like you got especially the likes of a Raptor Ranger.
Well, yeah, there's been multiple cars now that you really can't do much with them.
Yeah,
it started with that Y62, Y62.
Yeah, Y62. Yeah, yep. Yeah, they're just
With
full hydraulic suspension,
and then
IRS.
Yeah, there's people that do stuff with it. Don't get me wrong, but it's just a shit setup.
Yeah.
For the average person to muck with.
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
your Ranger Raptor.
Ranger Raptor, they're probably the most expensive shocks out there. You can't lift them because they got an internal bypass, so you can ruin your valving. And then, if you go and put a standard remote res shock on it, you lose your in-cab adjustability.
Yeah.
There's so many things that limit you for what you're doing in these cars, and that's just the OE manufacturing.
Yeah, they're certainly they're certainly steering. They're changing their mindset, the way the manufacturers are in these OE companies.
Definitely.
To more, they're not dumb. They're seeing what the aftermarket world's doing.
Exactly right.
And they're just now putting on cars. And you've got the likes of your ARBs and your Ironmans and all that, all now starting to connect more with the dealers on a base level.
We're sitting here in the shed at WAM, and the biggest car on the wall in the background is the Ultra 4. So obviously, you started out in the very early days of here was full drive competition and rock crawling and that sort of thing with like you said, tough tracks and that sort of thing, which was it was short course rock crawling. I can't remember how they explained it.
Yeah, it was. Tough tracks was just all little short courses, literally that they'd get a creek gully and they'd just basically say you got to get from here to here. No, this is the bad thing about it. There was no time frame to it, but this is just that old school racing.
That's exactly right.
And they just make it so they'd put some cones. Basically hit the cones, or you go out of course or whatever, you're penalised, or DNS, whatever. It was at the time that was the racing. That's what people enjoyed. It
was cool. I loved it.
It's definitely progressed in the scene now. Everything's fast.
Yeah, exactly. Everything's.
I think Tough Tracks doesn't even exist anymore.
No.
There was quite a few events. The very first event I did when I had that LN65 or 46, whatever it was, the Hilux. It was originally yellow, had a Chevy in it.
Yeah, right.
And then pulled that because just dead set slug of a thing. Slow.
Just made noise.
I think it was a manual. Pull that out. I did like everyone used to do back then, V6 Ecotech in the thing. Used to overheat. I was always a laughing fucking thing at Cruiser Park because you'd have the bonnet off the thing because the thing would be overheating. At that same point when it was Superior Full Drive shackles on the side of the car, they had a competition at Yandina.
Yeah, okay.
So,
I've seen video. There was a video going around of that not long ago.
Yeah, there's a video. Yeah, it was a good event. It was just a series of, there were some jumps and ruts and big things, and the Hilux had more flex than anything there, so it was pretty cool. Awesome show. And at that point, I remember going around to everyone's cars. Remember the old school days? You probably still get it now and then on your wipers. You get someone put a piece of paper on your wiper. Well, I did that.
Yeah.
Printed up Superior Engineering, whatever it was on there, whether it said shackles or bits and pieces, aftermarket parts, and went around the car park. Put on there, but I raced that event. That was cool. That really got me into liking the events because from that point on is kind of when I started, I guess, really getting into full driving more, going to Cruiser Park and all that. And then we started, that was probably all the comps I used to do with the green one. It was really only probably that, I think. Then I bought the Patrol later on down the track. And the Patrol was I got that cut, so I must have bought it as a wagon.
Yeah, true. There is a photo in the showroom of when you cut it. Yeah,
I got Dale to cut it. Who used to do Radiosums. I can't remember the business name.
2D Extreme.
2D Extreme. Yeah, so he cut it, and then me and Greg, we did all the roll bar and all that, and obviously there'll be photos there when it had the half doors and all the full EXO. Because back in the day,
yesterday,
that was a popular thing, EXO cages.
Yeah.
You don't really see it much anymore. And the stinger bars, everyone used to have a stinger bar.
Yeah.
We started doing the tough tracks and all that with that patrol. Yeah. So Shane was navigating me with that. And you had Shane's sister, Tamara, who worked at ARB.
Yep.
So actually when Tamara was competing, she had a LN 106 single cab, little diesel, had all our suspension in it, but it wasn't, it was enough for her to stay in the low class.
Might have
been called trophy class, I think, maybe back then. But anyway, when she was competing, Shane and Navi her, and then when that was happening, I'd have Aaron Williams, who was then navvying me, and I would navvy for Aaron in his Hilux. He had an LN 65, I think.
Yeah, Aaron's Hilux was always cool though. I loved the tub guards on the tray and that, and the treps.
It was whatever his was the first of the square guards. I don't know what that model was, whether it was 65. Mine, I think, was 46 with the round guards. I think his was 65.
Could be.
And he was all full EXO cage, drop shackles, all the same thing, all the same sort of stuff we're running. So we were always at these events, and we dominated the events. We did so well in it. But it was, a lot of it was because Greg and Dave taught us how to drive rocks. From that point on, kind of tough track started dying like a few years later. We probably did it for 5 years or something like that. It was really good to push the company because you're always out there. We always used to sponsor. Like one thing we never talked about was just sponsor. Like I've sponsored so much over the years.
Definitely.
And a lot of people don't see the money poured into sponsorship because the only people who see the sponsorship is if you're an individual who's been sponsored, no one else is going to see that. That's just in your pocket. Or if you sponsor a business, it's up to the business to really make that well known that you've sponsored it. Sometimes some businesses are great at it, some businesses are not great at it. There's, like, we've had, I won't go and say the event, but there's been off-road racing events that I've sponsored for a while, and we got nothing out of it for years. I would have spent, I don't know, thousands and thousands of dollars. But yeah, so basically once that tough track slowly faded away and died, there was probably a break. I didn't do much for a while. I was probably focusing on the company. Then I remember I was sitting in at Old Burpengary. We had, which we never talked about, I had another office, like a donger. There was one that was outside. It ended up being the smoko room.
The smoko shed.
Well, that was me and Greg and might have been Amy or something. Were out there for one because we'd run out of space. Anyway, I was talking to Greg and I said, Greg, I need to buy something to have fun in. And he showed me Ultra 4s. He said, oh, look at these things. These are unreal. And because it was like that next progression. It was rock crawling, but now going fast. And I got on Google. No, it was it was Pirate. Got on Pirate and I started looking and I seen this Jimmy's truck. And I thought, wow, that's cool. And it was like 90 grand US back then. This is 2012 when this was.
Wow.
Because I remember when we bought it over. And I bought it sight unseen, looked at just photos, looked cool, got it over. And I remember when we got it, I sent Johnny Butler down to get it, his little tilt tray thing. I remember it come back, we unloaded it, this is cool, got in it, had an LS3, took off down that driveway, down the dirt driveway, down the old man's towards the back paddock. It's got the dip. Went through that, flat out, hit that, and it just kicked the arse end that high, it nearly overtook the front end. And I just thought, nearly died. Brought it back, hopped out. Like, whoa. Anyway, it just drove terrible. Drove like a bucket of shit. So it was, I think it was basically, that type of vehicle is very short wheelbase. Back in that day, everyone carried on about you got to have this short wheelbase. Has to be the exact wheelbase to go rock crawling. You can't rock crawl if you don't have this wheelbase. It's like, whatever. Tosser. You can be long, you can be short or whatever. But yeah, basically, I said to Greg at the time, I said, this thing drives like a bucket of shit. So we chopped all the links out of it, redid all the geometry. It might have even been Josh that was helping me. I can't quite remember whether it was Greg or Josh. But we redid the geometry, got it to start handling right. We had to change the ratio in the front to be slightly lower gearing than the rear.
Okay,
Or
right.
no, taller. So it would pull the car.
Yeah, okay, right.
If you had 5.4s and 5.4s,
Yep.
the thing would just wander, and you just couldn't
okay.
you couldn't stop it. No matter playing with wheel on and everything, it was just a nightmare of a car.
Yeah, okay, right. Yep,
And we ended up working out if we went that slightly taller gear in the front, it was always pulling the front
Yeah, right, okay.
along,
Yep,
and it drove really nice.
Yeah,
and
right.
yeah, it'd track nice, it'd corner nice, it'd do everything. So probably there's people out there who listen also. That's a load of shit. Whatever.
Yeah.
It worked for that car.
It worked for that car, yeah.
And at that point, me being me, I can't help myself. If I buy something, I've got to pull it apart and I've got to try and fix it and make it better.
Yeah.
It's just, I think it's a mental problem I've got. Basically, I started pulling the Ultra 4 apart, and it was new motor,
Yeah.
new gearbox, diffs we kept blowing up.
Yeah.
Every few drives, I'd blow the arse out of a diff because we were probably only pushing, I think we were like 700 horsepower with the motor we put in it from Shane Alex engines back then. And it had mega high 9 diff gears in it.
Oh, it's a high pinion rear as well.
Pinion, yeah, it had the high pinion rear in at that point.
Yeah, okay,
And
yeah.
we spent so much time, every time I buy a new gear set for it, it had to come in from the US, and it probably cost you $2,000 or $3,000 by the time it got here with all the freight and all the crap. And you blow it again, you just kept cracking these gear sets. We couldn't work out what it was.
Yeah, yep.
We ended up changing the gear set to a different brand, and then we never had a problem. It was, I think they were making the gears too hard. I think that was a problem. But basically, we chopped everything out of that car, and it was just week by week. I had at one point, there was Dylan working for us.
Yep.
So Dylan was just when I was right into my racing peak at it, Dylan was just full-time working on it.
Yeah, right.
So
okay,
he was mechanic,
Yep.
and there was a couple of times we did Ellerbrew, I think it was up north. We did a race up there.
Okay, right.
So and we had the Arctic Cats back then, because that was a part of the business that,
Yeah.
that we didn't speak about. That was a bit of a nightmare.
Yeah.
Just selling side-by-sides,
Yeah.
trying to.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was a full-time mechanic, so he was working on this Ultra 4. And the where you look at the Ultra 4 now, the only thing that's, I think, left on it would be the rims.
Yeah.
And I think the lower...
Like the
No,
boat
they've
sides.
been changed.
Oh, yeah. You
don't-
changed the roof not long ago?
I don't think there's anything left on it apart from the rims.
Yeah, right.
Oh, and the housing, the front and rear housing.
Oh, yeah, the housings. Yeah, you put all new
and the front,
knuckles
yeah,
and
the front
everything, yeah.
knuckles. So the
Yep.
front knuckles, the diff housing, the rear housing, but they've both been heavily modified.
Yeah, yep.
And the rims. Apart from that, it's all Australian. It's all Australian made.
It's been burnt to the ground. Fucking.
Oh yeah, we had that fire, whatever year that was.
Yeah, I think it's 21.
That was a Cruiser Park. Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember me and
No,
I think it was
19.
Shane, because poor Shane.
Yeah, it was
Every time Shane got in the race car with me, shit'd go wrong.
Yeah, right, yeah.
And we got in and we're racing. We're doing. I think we're probably coming.
You're miles out in
First?
front. Yeah, you're miles out in front.
Yeah, we're doing really good. Went over the hill at Diaper Flats, and I said to Shane, "Do you smell that fuel?" And just bang straight away, just the flames come straight in the cab.
Yeah, right.
We pulled up. I went to jump out, but I struggle because normally I've got the 5-point harness, and then the PRPs have got that second little clip up here.
Yes, yeah.
I never run that. This particular race, I run it.
Oh, fuck, yes,
and
I just
then-
forgot about it.
Yeah, so I undone my latch. I'm trying to get out. I couldn't work it because I got the helmet on, neck brace. You had that proper neck brace, so you can't look down at your
Yep.
waist or anything. You can't see what's going on. Could not work out why I couldn't get out. So started to panic a bit because normally you get out, whatever, 10 to 15 seconds or whatever, you're out.
Yeah.
Anyway, fire's coming in, everything's getting hot, starting to melt. And then in the heat of the moment, I didn't turn the isolator off because I was too panicked about I can't get myself
getting
out.
fucking get it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which is
It's just one of those things. It's
completely
just
normal to
the
reaction.
way it all went down. We ended up getting out. Shane got out, and then the thing went up in flames. I don't know if we're going to be lucky enough to be able to find any footage of that. I'd certainly have some burnt photos we might be able to put up.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
And then
English has it on video.
we had all the Ultra 4 team there trying to put the thing out. Can you remember how many extinguishers?
36 fire extinguishers.
36
were
fire
used,
extinguishers,
yeah.
and we
that's-
couldn't put it out.
No, you could not put the fucker out. It was so
it
damn hot.
burnt the whole lot of the car to the radiator.
Yeah.
The 4 tyres didn't burn, but it burnt all the way to the radiator and stopped at the radiator because from the radiator there was nothing really for it to
Yeah.
burn.
And that's where Brendan had the shovel, was filling full of dirt.
Yeah, well that's what helped the most because the
Yeah.
fire extinguishers weren't doing anything.
No, yeah, it just light back up again.
And I think in hindsight, what set that car so bad on fire is it broke an AN fitting at the fuel rail.
Yeah, right.
So it's just pumped the fuel straight on the pipes.
Yep.
I haven't turned off the isolator, so it's just
Continuing.
while we're trying to put it out. Every time we put the flame out with an extinguisher, she'd reignite.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think it was purely because the pumps. Because remember, were you there at the time? I think.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, you come flying down.
Yeah,
the cruiser.
I was hooning in the cruiser.
Yeah.
And outback tour fucking full fucking speed.
Yeah, because every time we'd put anything in there, extinguisher or whatever, it'd just reignite again.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think it was purely because it wasn't isolated and the pumps were still, because you had the siren going off and everything. That was a pain in the arse.
Yeah, yeah.
And then they were pouring cans of Coke on it.
Cans of Coke. Yeah, but that's what I did. I opened your fridge and threw the fridge lid on top of a carton of water and threw all your cans of Coke out to throw there, and then left the water in the tray.
Yeah. So yeah, it was a bit of a sad day, that one.
Yeah.
And then I took that car home, put it on the trailer, took it home. That afternoon, might have been the next morning, got the gurney out, just gurneyed all the burnt shit away. There was not much left of the car. Everything was melted, and it smelt so toxic, it was pretty bad. And then it just slowly, I just thought, I'll just rebuild it, because I didn't have the money to just start it, just to buy a whole new one.
Yeah,
it was kind of just keep chipping away, buying bits and pieces again.
Yeah.
And I had so many of the parts as spares.
Yeah, yeah.
So I probably had 50% of the car sitting in boxes and shit that I usually take to races for parts. So we built that, got it back together, and then I guess the next races would have probably been the cliffhanger. Well, we did some winch challenges.
Yeah, did the Triple S, yep.
Did a couple of Triple S's.
Yep.
Yeah.
Binned it there
They
as well.
enjoyed watching me wind all the bunting up on my tyres.
Yeah. And you stay in the bunting, Mick, not on it.
The winch challenge guys don't realise how good they have at having panels covering their tyres. I was coming around the corners drifting, and then it just wraps all the bunting up. Pull up at the end of the stage with the whole stage wrapped around your tyre.
Pink tyre.
But yeah, I think the winch challenge boys enjoyed seeing it there.
Yeah,
I think that was a bit of an eye opener for the likes of Joshy Marks and that. But,
yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And then after that, we did the cliffhanger in 2019.
Yeah. Yep.
Which we come second in that.
That's because you drove over all the cones in the first stage as well.
Well, we got pinged for being out of course, which I still to this day would argue black and blue we weren't anywhere near being out of course.
Yeah, right.
But it's cycle racing. What the officials say is that's it.
End of the story. Yeah.
Yeah, you had to. I think you had to have. No, I can't even remember what the rule was. There was a weird rule. I don't think they accepted in-car footage. Yeah, which was a bit weird because we would have had all their in-car footage, which would show we weren't. But I don't think they accepted that. But whatever reason, but yeah, unfortunately we came second in that. But that was probably the highlight of my life racing that event. That was unreal.
Yeah, it was an awesome week, even though I was freaking cooked.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because you ate the chicken sticks
skewers,
or something
man,
on the way.
I'm not eating chicken skewers on the way down there this year.
And then you stuffed
that sucked.
You were done for the week.
Yeah, I was sick for 3 days and in
I remember getting there and you
dirty ass truck toilet.
It's a bit of a worry, that toilet. You'd be standing there. You'd have to stand at the high end of the shitter, because otherwise everyone above you pissing, the water it'd be going down to your feet.
Yeah, it was a rough toilet setup, that. The amount of people that like that where you could just come like, nah, man, I gave up on that. I just go to the women's now.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's what I was doing. I was going to the ladies' toilet because it was clean.
Yeah, that was rough.
Yeah. Yeah, because you were pretty knackered in your swag for quite a few days.
When we got there, you're like, hey, man, we're having salmon for dinner. I'm like, please don't give me salmon. Like, I'm going to fucking throw up everywhere.
It was good. And we had the cappuccino machine.
It was not cool.
Yeah. And then, so that was unreal. That was the most highs and lows I've ever had in my life in a week.
Yeah.
Because you do an absolutely unreal run on something, but then you could be shot down because of that likes of, no, you got penalised for something that I didn't do that. But it was unreal, and then totally exhausting because you're up racing. You race all day and then you'd be up at night racing.
Yeah.
So, but like the winch challenge guys do that shit all the time.
Yeah,
For me, it was just, I don't normally do that, so it was pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Definitely a very cool event, cliffhanger.
Yeah. Then we did you didn't come to the 21.
No, I think I was crook then. I think I might have been crook. I can't remember.
But yeah, that was sad, the 21, because we went there, had the new engine in it. I don't know what that engine was. Whether I think it was a 427 maybe.
Yeah, that was when it got changed to the 440.
And that was a pretty angry motor. That one got built again by Shane Alex, and we did I think it might have been the second race. I can't remember what the first one would have been, but it was like the 6-hour race or something like that we were doing, and we were blitzing them. Like, I kept saying to Angus at one point, I said, are we even on the track? Because there was no tracks. We were out the front, and we left like, whatever it was, might have been midfield or somewhere like that.
Yeah.
So we'd overtaken a lot of cars, and we got right up to literally probably a kilometre from the finish.
Yeah.
And there was a creek crossing, and like everyone knows, Ultra 4s aren't made for water.
No,
so they're not.
Yeah, no.
And I remember Pink Truck went through the mud.
Yeah.
And I thought all we had to do, Pink Truck was in front of us, but Pink Truck started way in front of us. So technically we were still in front, but not physically.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'll go around him and then be gone. And when I've entered the mud, the creek, which was fairly deep, the water's come up over the bonnet and gone straight into the air filter.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I was full noise, probably 6,000 or 7,000 RPM when it's got a mouthful of water.
Yeah.
And it just hydraulicked it.
Yeah.
It stopped it dead. So we got out. I got back to because we weren't that far from camp, I got back to camp, got a spark plug socket.
Yeah.
Come out, pulled the plugs out. It was like garden hose, just coming out every cylinder.
Yeah, right.
So we got it back together. Angus had his helmet sitting on the roof.
Yeah.
And then we've got this thing fired up. I said to Angus, run across the creek and I'll pick you up. And I've jumped in my side, done my harness up, took it off. His helmet was on the roof. So his helmet's rolled off the car, straight into the mud, upside down, full of mud. So then he's had to run back, get the helmet. It was the funniest thing you ever seen when he goes and pulls the helmet on his head and all the mud and shit just runs down the side of his face. It sounded like one of those maraca things, the old school music things.
Yeah.
Maracas. Yeah, it was clearancing himself. The rod was hitting the side of the block. So we've taken off the last, whatever it was, kilometre. We've taken off, got it flat out, and it's doing about 70k an hour. You would have heard it back at Cobar. And then, we got it back to camp, and I found Mick Love, and I said, because Mick owns that mechanical shop, he's good with motors. I said, Mick, have a listen to this. And he looks at me. He just shakes his head. He goes, it's fucked. I said, no, it can't be. I said, can we just take the fucking injector out and leave the spark plug out? And he's just shaking his head. I was so devastated because we were doing so well right off the bat.
Yeah.
And just, that was the week gone.
But that is the story of superior engineering. Something I've wanted to hear, and hear Mick say it for himself is absolutely awesome. But I just want to say thanks for having me out. Thanks for having the chat with me, Mick. It's wonderful to hear. So we'll keep pushing the business to what we can and keep trying to make you happy with what we do.
Ask.
That's it. But we'll catch up with you guys on the next episode. Make sure you like and subscribe, as there is plenty more chats to come. We'll catch up with you soon.